Cushman, the legend in the plans. Please listen every day to the showcase. The opinions and knowledge that anyone can take. Showing you how it is done. Proving I am number one. What a legend becomes. This is now my time to show you that I am here. This podcast just to make it loud and clear. By the fans, for the fans. Not many whose head can understand everything pro wrestling. It can never be you. Listen to the podcast here for the people. The best show that's here, so listen in. Let the knowledge begin. The opinion and the lesson. Yes.
Folks, welcome to Everything Pro Wrestling. Everything Pro Wrestling is a show by the fans, for the fans. I'm your host, Conrad Cushman, and with me, I might as well call him a host because he's been here every single week right now for 5 weeks, back to back to back. This is his last dance, the Michael Jordan of creating wrestling video games. It is my man, Bryan Williams. Bryan, what's happening, brother?
What's up, Conrad?
That might be the best. That might be the best intro I ever gave somebody.
I was gonna say I definitely don't think I'm worthy of that introduction, but I appreciate it nonetheless.
Man, if this is your first time joining us today, we are going to be talking about the 2K era as far as the official name goes. We are going to be talking 2K14, 2K15. So if you got questions for Bryan, thoughts, leave them in the chat below. We appreciate everyone who's in the chat. I will get to shouting you guys out in a second. But before we get into that, guys, make sure you hit that like button for us and check out our intro here.
Everything pro wrestling, it can never be you. Listen to the podcast here for the people. The best show that's here, so listen in. Let the knowledge begin. The opinion and the lesson. Yes, everyday pro wrestling.
All right, guys, that is the intro by my man Montezzi. Check out his album, Humble Beginnings. Montezzi is doing great stuff in the wrestling world. Give him a follow on Twitter at TZScott. We got Bryan in the house, ready to talk some 2K14. A lot of people are hyped up for this, my man. You can't go wrong talking 2K14. I went on a trip down memory lane just looking at stuff for this game, and man, it was a blast, bro. I went back so far to even watch the roster reveal. Like, that's some nerdy stuff. I was like, let me go back and just, because I have distinct memories of watching this with my buddies. I remember we were all gathered around a computer. It was hot as hell. I'm sweating. I'm like, bro, why am I near all these dudes? And they're like, yo, who's going to be in the roster this year? I'm like, dude, I don't know. So we finally get to see it. And I just remember like going crazy for certain people. And I guess we'll talk about it when we get to the roster stuff and everything else. But this is going to be a good one. Let me give some shout outs real quick to our friends in the chat here. First, shout out to Resurrected Sean, first one in here, coming in with some questions. Sean, I will get to your questions, I promise you, brother. We've got those written down. Mark Goldman Plays. He says he's a modder and he's got some unusual questions for us. Bring them on, brother. Bring them on.
I like unusual.
Original Biggie, what is going on, brother? I got your questions on Twitter as well, so I will make sure that those get asked as well, Biggie. Thomas Polster's in the house. What's going on? Marlon Anthony finally back here. It is 1 a.m. in the UK. Man, thank you for staying up, Marlon.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, Mark Goldman said he is in Germany and it's 2 a.m. He's got you beat. Mark Goldman said, what's up to you, Bryan? He wanted to make sure that you knew.
Oh, yeah. What's up, Mark? It's good. I'm glad you tuned in, brother.
John L. Jackson in the house. What's good? Narcolepsy Boy said the GOATs. I don't know if he's talking about the Bulls or us, but I'm going to say it's us for right now, Bryan. And Travis Starr said, hey, what's going on, Travis? Donnie, man, good to have everybody in here who is in the house for this chat. You know these go long, so if you need to get yourself a drink, sit down, grab yourself some quality H2O, sit back, man. Let Bryan tell you a story, man. This has been like a series, and this is Bryan's series. This really doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm just happy to host it. And,
this is our series, brother. This is our series.
Ooh,
actually, not even that. This is yours. Like, this is your show. I am just, lucky enough to be able to be on your show, so I can, reminisce on some of these past games, man. It's been nice to reminisce and go down memory lane talking about these games.
Yeah, man. These games are something fun, man. Something truly fun just to look back on for a lot of it. Let's start off with 2K14, man. Shout out to Wrestling Gifts. I used a couple of his videos throughout all of this, and I love the work that he did when he went back in time. He seems a little bit younger than me, but he's still in that age range to where I could kind of connect with him. The dude did an amazing job with this. So if you haven't checked him out, check out Wrestling Gifts on YouTube, highlighting some of these games, man. And for 2K14,
I will definitely co-sign that. He puts out some really cool content. So yeah, props to you, Wrestling Gifts. Keep it up, brother.
Bryan, my first line that I have in this notes. This is the last 2K game I enjoyed.
What, this one?
Yeah, well, honestly, this was the last wrestling game that I feel like I really enjoyed it. I love this game, man. This was
definitely looking forward to this episode probably the most because I've got a lot of shit to talk about with both these games.
One of my fondest memories from this episode was I got retweeted on Twitter from Shawn Michaels when they showed the gameplay trailer on Monday Night Raw. I remember this specifically, and I was like, "Oh yes, HBK and Macho Man are in the game." And Shawn Michaels retweeted me and quote tweeted me and said, "Good to know that I'm in the game." So he must have wanted that check, baby. Them THQ checks were nice back in the day, so he must have been like, "Yeah, I'm good to know."
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
So, and Shawn Michaels is my favorite wrestler of all time. So that was something beautiful to get that.
Yeah, talking about goats. I mean, there's one right there. He might be the GOAT.
Shout out to Vampiro V3 in the chat. What's going on, Vampiro? Good to have you in here. We'll get to 2K15. I promise you, brother. Yeah. Let's see here. Man, Mark Goldman coming with the questions. You want to start with the question, Bryan?
Let's start with some questions.
Mark Goldman says, first question regarding 2K14. WWE 2K14 was the last game containing creative finisher. Was it always planned to get rid of it with 2K15, or was one of the factors that the mode was exploited?
No. I mean, this kind of goes into, 15, obviously, we're going to talk about that. But because I know one of the big knocks on 15 was how feature-light it was. No story designer, no creative finisher. Ultimately, the reason that it didn't wind up in the next gen for the Xbox One was it was a matter of time, and I think we talked about it in past episodes how difficult it could be during the same console iteration when you go from one game to the next, and how certain features sometimes don't carry over from year to year, or were in the game for X number of years, but then doesn't make it into the newer game. It's just there's a lot of cost and time that's needed to re-implement these past features to account for any kind of changes that just may occur, which did occur annually with each one of our releases, whether it was something graphically, programmatically, visually. You have to account for all of those changes in the new game as you're porting over older features and modes from the previous. And so you can understand that it becomes exponentially more difficult to do that when you're then going from, one console, iteration into a brand new one. And so when we made the jump from 2K14 to 2K15 for next gen, for Xbox One, you saw a lot of those features just get cut by the wayside because we just did not have the time and the cost to make all the necessary adjustments that were needed to get those features upgraded and implemented into the that next gen SKU, which is why actually no, because we cut them from even the 360 version of 2K15 as well, but that was why, and the intent was like we all kind of figured when we were working on 2K15, it's like, okay, look, we're at a point, and I'll get to it later why we were at such a point. We're at a point now where it's almost like we got to shit to get out the pot. We have, I don't want to say wasted a lot of time, but a lot of time was wasted. And so we just needed to get a game done, get gameplay, get everything up to speed, get an agreement with, Yuke and us on what the game was going to be. And so just the thought of, honestly, it's a testament that 15 was even released. And I know a lot of you don't like that game, but that is one of the reasons why a lot of those features just were not able to make it in, because we just did not have the time, we did not have the bandwidth to make all the necessary, technical changes and implementation to get those features in the game. And we couldn't, and it's one of those things we couldn't have just taken the mode itself outright and just added it brand new into this brand new, console. A lot of tinkering's got to be done underneath the hood to make that a reality. And we were just at a point where we just couldn't get it done. And the goal was, though, at least initially, was that, okay, we can't get it in 15, but we'll slowly start to cycle these features in over time. Obviously, that was not the case with, some of these modes, story designer, custom finisher. But that's basically the answer to that question.
Yes. What's going on, Rob? I see you in here as well, and Connor joined us as well. Let's see here.
Good question, though. Good question.
Mark Goldman brought up something I wanted to bring up. That Fall Out Boy Phoenix song, that was the joint, man. That was a good trailer, man. That used to get me pumped up just hearing that song. That became my gym workout song for a little bit after that. I was like, oh, okay, I'm feeling this, baby. Yeah. And Fall Out Boy's not that bad. It was the pop look but I thought that it worked for that game, though. It made me miss those kind of, like, songs being in the game versus hearing the wrestlers' themes over and over again.
I dug that song, too. I mean, I'm not the biggest Fall Out Boy fan, but I'm like you. I mean, they got, hey, if something's catchy, it's catchy.
Yeah, it worked, man. I like it.
I mean, give props where it's due. Yeah.
Let's get back into this. The roster reveal. I have to give it up. Bryan and Aubrey Sitterson at the time was the community manager. Shout out to Aubrey.
Yeah.
Aubrey, I saw you said people treated you bad, brother. Animals 07 never treated you bad. All right? I treated you well. I spoke highly of you. I just got on you about the kickouts thing. I was like, yo, you're wrong about that, bro, for sure. But I don't know. I felt bad for Aubrey when he was like, yeah, there's no amount of money. They couldn't pay me enough money to come back when someone suggested he should come back. And I was like, ooh, harsh. Tough.
Yeah. He definitely. I mean, he was one of the guys that was asked or given the opportunity to stay on the team, and as we went from when we had to make our move up north to Northern California. But yeah, he was not happy, and when he told me that he wasn't going, I totally understood his position, and I was like, hey man, just plus he's got a wife, and his wife had the job out here, and so I think for him with that and the fact that he wasn't very happy in dealing with some of the people he had to deal with. And I'm not saying on the community side. I'm talking about from what he told me, just on the company side.
Right.
I think that had more to do with his decision than anything else. So, but yeah, that's my homie, man. And it's funny that you mentioned that roster reveal because that's the only one that I even remember, and I guess because I was a part of it, that's why it stands out.
No, you know what? I think that was the best done roster reveal, too, because it sticks out in my mind as the only one that I can honestly remember besides, like, the 08 IGN bad ones, where I would come home and I'm like, who are they revealing tonight, man? Can't wait for the entrance. JTG? Man, I'm going to work tomorrow. It's BS. I would slam stuff like, come on, bro. Show somebody good.
Was that when they were doing that was when they were doing like just one a day, right?
Yeah, they would just do one a day, and it would, and not that I hate Crime Time or anything like that. It would just be like you would just show JTG's entrance and not the tag entrance, and I'm like, dude, I don't want to see this. Like, come on, bro.
Yeah, I was never a fan of that either. It's like when it came to the roster, I never understood why we kind of coveted it as much as we did, as far as like how we would dole that information out. I'm like, why not? I mean, and I guess that's what we finally got to that with 2K14. But it's like, that's just release it all at once. You know what I mean? Because, yeah, the whole every day, and I know why they did it, because they just want to get those hits and clicks. But, yeah, I was never a fan of that. Because you're ultimately going to end up being disappointed on, like you just mentioned, like on one day, you're excited to see who's going to be in, and then there's some guy that's like, well, or if it's like Triple H, it's like, well, of course he's fucking in the game.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or Undertaker. It's like, yes, duh.
Brian, I might catch some heat. You might agree with me on this, but I'm about to catch some heat for this. I agree with how 2K does the releases. I remember back in the old days when people would give out all the information a little too early, then there was that like quiet period before the game release. People would start making shit up. I remember yeah, man, Punjabi prison match is going to be revealed right before, man. It's going to be a big surprise. And I'm like, bro, no, it's not. And I just learned as I got older, like, these people will do this every time. So when 2K started hoarding the information and you didn't get any of it until the end, then they were like, boom, here you go. Every week, here's something, here's something, here's something. And the game comes out next week. And then you just found out about everything a couple days before. Dope. The hype level's still there.
I liked it too.
Yeah, not enough time to make it up. You know?
Exactly. I like that approach too. I think with THQ, I mean, it inevitably it would always happen. Like we dole out a lot of information early and then give this long stretch of time where we didn't have much else to announce. So there's a whole bunch of speculation about what may or may not be in the game. And then when you get it, sometimes, ultimately there's a little disappointment that sets in. I think 2K, this is one thing I will give them credit for, is that I think holding back up until the very end, and then you just like, boom, here's this information. You put that out there, give people a chance to talk and kind of get hyped about it. And then not too long after that, the game is on the store shelves, you play it, and hopefully you enjoy it. But yeah, in terms of how they doled that information out, and in the roster too, I like that.
Right. I'm trying not to miss anything. I'm seeing some real funny comments in here. Somebody said that, where was it now? Vampiro said, 2K14 defined my teenage years, stayed up till 5 a.m. playing 6-man ladder matches was the best. And Mark Goldman said, I was 15 when 2K14 released, and I spammed Aubrey's business email, being, no pun intended, Mark asking questions.
Hey, that was his job. He was there to do to answer those questions, so it's all good, no problem there.
Now look, if you guys go back and find the roster reveal video, it's still up on 2K's channel if you guys want to find it. That's how I found it. Bryan is wearing a shirt. Bryan was showing off the muscles in this. Like, Bryan was like, make sure that shirt's tight right around the arms here. He was looking like Scott Steiner trying to come out there. I was like, dang, dude, big swole out here, like puffing up the chest a little bit, like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, yeah, he looks like he's ready to put hands on somebody if they try him.
Was that really?
Yeah, you were just looking swole, man. I think I saw CM Pulse, like old school CM Pulse in the background in the video too, like trying to get on camera. I don't know if that was him. If I'm wrong, forgive me. But there was definitely a CM Pulse doppelganger in the background trying to get on the camera a couple times.
It was probably him, because we did that roster reveal the same day that we did our SummerSlam press event, where we had our, which we used to always do is SummerSlam, have our big, kind of unveiling of the game, which is where we also had that the infamous Superstar Symposium.
Oh, we're gonna get to that.
Yeah, so it probably was Pulse. I guarantee it probably wasn't.
Yeah, that was really cool. I thought Sandow added to it a lot too. I thought he did a really good job with that. How they did not see money in that dude, dude, it made me sad. I was just like, dude, this dude was so good in the hosting aspects of it. JR and the King, that was when I first started seeing the little touches of them like losing it a little bit. I'm like, come on, boys, stick with it here. JR's like, shit, who cares? Good God, there's a bunch of people in the game. Go get the game. And I see the little television down there, the prompter. I'm like, JR, come on, get into it. But JR held it down, though. I thought they did good. The King always has his one-liners in those situations. Way better than his one-liners of today, of course.
Yeah, right.
You guys were talking NXT during this, too. I thought that was really cool. And you were talking about matches that were happening there during the weekend, I guess. They had a ring set up at it was at the LA Live, which is across the street from Staples Center, and NXT, they had a ring set up right in the middle, and they were just having matches throughout the day. That was actually, I think might have been the first time I saw Rusev. I think he in his early gimmick. I mean, he was still pretty much the Bulgarian Brute, but I think he might have had like some loincloth or something on. But he was out there, and Sami Zayn, I think you mentioned.
Sami Zayn, Kruger, Leo Kruger, who was what was his name? Adam Bose.
Yes.
Yeah. Summer Rae. Yeah. That was dope. Like, that was a really good press event that we had. I had a really good time that day.
It was one of those moments where my wrestling fandom like started coming back to me, man. Like, I was like, yo, I'm really digging this NXT stuff, man. I hope it's in the game and we can get to some modes with it and stuff and do stuff with it. Really, really dope. The next thing I have here is the Jim Ross thing, the symposium.
Yeah.
Bryan, do you have any insight? What the hell happened? And how did Jim Ross become big brother to Ric Flair? And if you guys don't know the story, Ric Flair got a little toasty at the time, and he started talking.
He wasn't the only one. But I think he was the toastiest.
Yeah, and he started talking about some things that you probably shouldn't talk about with other companies, we shall say. And I guess a lot of the WWE executives weren't too happy about that. And Rick didn't get in trouble. JR got in trouble.
Yeah. because
I
he was
felt
a
bad
host
for
and he was
that.
there to moderate. And I feel bad too. I know a lot's been I don't know if a lot's been talked about that symposium, but so so basically Corey gave his presentation to the press. He's at the podium. He's talking about all the new features, yada yada yada. And at the very end, it goes to a playthrough of 30 years of 30 years of WrestleMania, and we did a playthrough of the Hogan Andre match from WrestleMania 3. So he's speaking as I'm sitting behind the scenes, playing the game live. And it was funny too, because early in the day, Corey and my who would end up being my future boss at 2K, they were both like, "Are you sure? Like, B, are you sure you can do this without failing?" I'm like, "Come on, I'm the best dude at this game, of course. Like, no worries. It's on normal. I got this. And they're like, all right, because we're live. We don't want to see you lose. I'm like, nah, no worries at all. Bruh, I almost lost that shit. Like, early on, too. I barely kicked out. And I can see Corey looking. He's like, whoa. Woo. I had one little misstep, but I made it through. And after the playthrough, everybody, everybody's notified of the symposium's going to occur. And once that thing started, I was in the audience, off to the side in the cut. And it was JR who was the moderator. Ric Flair, of course. Like, there was a lot of cats on that stage. And I think it is a testament to Jim Ross and Ric Flair that they're like the only two that I can solidly remember being there. Daniel Bryan was there, Rey Mysterio. I think Mick Foley was there. It was like a lot of cats. I think Dolph Ziggler was part of it.
Yeah.
And it was all supposed to be this, this talk about what does WrestleMania mean to everybody. People kind of giving their memories and moments, all that kind of stuff. And it kind of just devolved into the Ric Flair and JR show.
Which might have been better though. Maybe it would have been better if it was smaller. Because honestly, Brian, I was entertained by it though.
Everybody was. See, that's the thing. Like, I thought it was awesome because it was, all the guys on the stage, all the guys that were speaking, they were, which is Ric Flair mostly and Jim Ross, but they were just shooting, talking real. It was like a shoot almost. I mean, yeah, I think they might have brought up other promotions like TNA or whatever, just real talk. And I appreciated it. It didn't come across as being too corporatized. Everybody in attendance, like the press, everybody was digging it except for the PR staff from WWE. Where I was standing, I could just see these PR people off of the cut, trying to communicate with each other, trying to get them to get in contact with JR to kind of button it up and kind of get it back on track. They were furious. But I didn't hear anybody that was in attendance that was from press or otherwise that had anything negative to say about it. Just WWE wasn't too happy with how it all went down.
Big facts. Before we get into this roster, let's read some comments here from the chat. JAA said, what up, guys? What's going on, J-Double? Thomas Polster said, 2K14 was the last WWE game I used to play. 15 through 18 for simulating my own universe mode. Stop buying after that. Got Fire Pro instead. Happy me.
Fire Pro's a good game.
Yeah, Travis Starr said, was there ever plans for an online universe mode for either of these years that you know of?
Yeah, we definitely discussed it. I think we probably discussed that early on when we first implemented it back in SVR 11. But like a lot of ideas that get, bandied about, that one ultimately just kind of fell by the wayside. But it was discussed as maybe something we could add to it in future iterations, but just never really found a compelling, design to get that thing implemented. But yeah, it was definitely discussed.
Man, we're getting a bunch of different things coming in here.
Bring 'em.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about 15's trailer, Marlon, in a little bit here. Let's see. Mark Goldman said another thing about 2K14. I attended Gamescom in 2013. I was at the evening event where there was a private play session. I was so happy when I started playing and the reversals chaining was removed. Okay.
Yeah, that got a little tedious from the one before. So that was some of the, I think I might have requested that change for 14. Because even myself, it was like, just, all right, enough of this. Like, we need some separation at some point.
Yeah. Original Biggie brought up Damian Sandow running into the John Cena experience. Yeah. Yeah. Thomas Poster said, didn't Flair tell the story how he teach Cena to drink beer or something like that? Yeah, it's little things like that, though. But, they were PG, and they didn't like that stuff. I don't know. Like I said, as an older fan, I was entertained. I wanted more of that.
They didn't get too off the rails. Like, it wasn't like the guy, were like dropping F-bombs or anything like that. I mean, they were talking about drinking. But, from everything I remember hearing is that Flair, like, they had a hard time even locating him. From when they were getting the symposium to start, but apparently he has been I think he spent like a couple hours at the bar beforehand, getting some drinks in him. And but JR, I think he might have been not with Ric Flair, but it seemed like he had a couple of cocktails as well.
Yeah,
but no, it didn't get X-rated,
Yeah, no, they were fine. I think people just didn't like the way it was done. I think they were looking for an excuse, honestly, for JR. Because, like I said, from watching the roster reveal, JR was already in, like, I don't care mode. Like, whatever. You don't want me on commentary. Like, I don't know. You could just tell there was a beef towards the end there with them and how everything was done. And they get rid of JR, but then the people are like, you better bring JR back. You don't do that to Jim Ross. That's Jim effing Ross. You show some respect. All right, we'll bring him back. And then, Triple H, Shawn, and all those guys want him to call the big matches, too. And everybody fights for JR. JR's loved by the boys. Like, he's one of the boys, basically. Like, come on, man.
And I think the WWE, like, they, just like their television, their programming, when it comes to anything WWE related, like, they like to have very, very strict control about what's being put out there. And I think the same held true for this symposium, where they just didn't appreciate how kind of off the cuff and free flowing the conversation was getting. Like, they wanted it to just be kind of like stick to these kind of the corporatized kind of talking points. You guys, they were just being too real, So that's why, like, they were like WWE were the only ones that had any issue. There was no one on our side, or no one from the press that I talked to that felt any kind of negative way about that. I mean, it was, like I said before, like, I've heard nothing but positives about that, that event.
We got a lot of good things here. I think I'm going to say Larry's Ridgeway. He asked about hack movesets being the reason Creative Finisher was taken out. Bryan kind of elaborated on that before with Creative Finisher and everything that happened with that. So if you want to rewind this back afterwards, you'll hear it in the very beginning, one of the first questions. Taco, thank you for coming in and dropping a like, my brother. I appreciate it. Hopefully everyone else does who is watching on YouTube. And shout out to everybody listening audio-wise as well. Let's get back into this roster, though, Bryan. I have to talk about this. Pre-order bonus, the Ultimate Warrior. To me, this was, maybe it was Brock, but Warrior was one of those people that I was like, dude, I don't think we'll ever see him again. And when I saw the commercial, I don't care that he had the short hair. When I heard the dun, 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 I was a Warrior guy more than Hogan. I was happy when he won at WrestleMania 6. I said it. I don't care about you Hogan fans. I was glad Warrior won. He was my boy when I was a kid. And I just thought it was so cool to have him in the game. And we had Macho Man back. And I'm like, dude, we could relive the golden era. I can mess around and do some new generation stuff. I got the current dudes. Like, this is sweet. I think it just really topped off. How did the Warrior deal come to be? Do you know anything about it?
Well, it came to be because of, the mode that we had, 30 years of WrestleMania. So the idea for 30 years of WrestleMania, it was a Corey Ledesma idea. And it was one of those things where it was like, if we're going to go through all these WrestleManias, there are certain matches that we just have to have. And one of them was from WrestleMania 6, Hogan versus Warrior. And so we approached WWE about the idea of what we were doing for the single player campaign. And kind of just let them know that, hey, we really, really would appreciate if you would allow us to have, if we can, get Warrior in the game. And they actually, because I remember Corey telling us this, they were fine with it. They said, look, the relationship between, Warrior and the WWE is not really a good one right at the moment. But if you can talk to him and if you can get him to agree to be in the game, then we won't poo-poo it. We won't, say no. So it was THQ who reached out, our, lawyers, the lawyer team, the legal team. They reached out to Warrior. They approached him with the idea about appearing in the game, and he ultimately agreed. And that was the start of him getting back into the good graces. Not buying if the good graces is the right word, but about him coming back into the fold. And it is funny because I know a lot's been like like the Warrior, even though he agreed to be in the game, it wasn't like he all of a sudden had just kind of forgiven or made amends with WWE outright. Because I remember actually going to a press event in New York for WWE 14. It was me and Corey, and we did an event, and the Warrior was going to be there to talk to the press. It was kind of like his first showing of being out there in support of the game. And I remember being told from our guys in marketing and everything, they were like, look, he agreed to come as long as he wasn't going to be put around any WWE personnel. Like, he didn't want to have to interact with them at all. And that was the impetus of him agreeing to join us for that press event. And it was funny because Triple H actually showed up to that event, and I remember Warrior not being all too excited about that, but I mean, he knew it wasn't like we weren't trying to sabotage or anything like that. But I think Hunter Triple H was there because he wanted to talk to him to try to start the mending of the fences between the WWE and himself.
Similar to what they did with Bruno, I feel like if he's like, yo, I'm not talking to Vince, you send Triple H in, like, he's one of the boys, he'll get it, and they'll probably be like, hey, what's going on, Hunter? He did let me whoop his ass at WrestleMania 12. Let me talk to him. Hey, how you doing, kid?
No, that's exactly what it was. I mean, I think Triple H. I think whatever bad blood there was. I mean, Triple H is he's a businessman. He's like, look, it doesn't make sense for you to be at odds with us, knowing what you meant to this company. And so I do think that by us reaching out to him and trying to get him into the game and WWE agreeing, there's no doubt in my mind that absolutely led to his induction into the Hall of Fame that year. Absolutely, like off top. Whether it was not that year, but it was 2014. Mm-hmm. That we bridged the gap because of this video game.
Yeah, you guys mended the fences for a lot of relationships, I think. So kudos to THQ/2K for that. Now let's.
I got to meet Ultimate Warrior too. I met him at I did PAX. I was at the PAX convention, and he was there at the 2K booth signing autographs and everything. And long line, super long line. And I remember Debbie from Legal, because she was there, like. Kind of chaperoning him around, kind of telling him what was what. And at the end of the event, she was like, hey, do you want to take a picture with him? I was like, nah, I don't want to bother him. I mean, he's been here for how many hours? He doesn't want to take a picture with me. She's like, no. It's like, he should take a picture with you. I was like, no. And she kind of like, no, she insisted. And so she brought me over to him. And Warrior's been on record for saying some really awful and kind of hurtful things about various communities.
Thank you for saying that, because I didn't want to bring it up.
Yeah, and just awful, terrible things. So definitely do not agree with that. And I don't even know if he, at that point in time that I met, if he still felt that way. But all I can say, I can say two things about Warrior, my interaction and seeing him, is that as I was there at our booth, talking to the press, demoing the game, he was told that his time of signing was over and that he was good to go if he wanted to. And I remember, because he was like close to me, and I remember him saying, it's like, well, how many people are still in line? And I think Debbie told him, it's like, oh, there's about, 25, 30. And he said, well, no, I'll stay. If they're waiting in line, like, I'm not going to leave anybody, out without, meeting me and everything like that. So he stayed way past his allotted time to make sure that everybody who was in line to see him was able to, talk to him, take a picture. And I thought that was pretty cool of him. And when I had a chance to talk to him briefly, he was just very polite, very humble, just super nice. He seemed really thrilled. The fact that he was in the game and the fact that he was being used to market the game and to like push, pre-order sales and everything. He was just kind of surprised, like, wow, I didn't think people still cared. So that's my memory of him and the times that I met him. Very nice, didn't come across as having any kind of big ego at all. That's not to take away from the things that he said, but just giving my, firsthand account of the time that I spent with him. And yeah, it was pretty cool,
Yeah, you know what, too, Brian? This isn't going to turn into moral life lessons or anything like that, but life's too short, as we can see from this example with Warrior. We all know he passed after getting into the Hall of Fame the next night. Like, that's wild. After a great speech on Raw, Warrior gave one of those passionate promos like he always does, and then he's gone.
Yeah.
He was somebody who we looked forward to having in Here Comes the Pain. If you go back, there's beta footage of the Ultimate Warrior being in that game, and he got removed from it. Just craziness, and I think people need to just forgive more sometimes. I know it's real easy to jump on someone and say, you know what, you did this and I'm done with you for that, but I think sometimes we got to learn how to open up and forgive a little bit. I'm not saying forget about it, I'm just saying, look, man, if you're a different person, you're a different person, man. And
honestly, like, I don't like, I was made aware of the comments and the things that he said. I think Corey might have mentioned it to me, like, during production of 14, because I mean, we talked about how I became a fan of wrestling. Like, I knew Ultimate Warrior when I was young, but I wasn't watching wrestling when I was young, and I really had no idea of all the stuff that he said until Corey mentioned it to me. So, and I don't know if he, you know, in the time since he made a lot of his, you know, hateful kind of comments, if he ever went and apologized. I don't know. He might have, but yeah, I mean, if I totally am not saying, you know, you have to. I'm not even saying you got to forgive the dude. Like, if you don't want to forgive what he said, hey, that is on your right, because he definitely said some really some batshit crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. But if he did apologize, then hey, you know, I'd like to think that he did and that he wasn't that same guy. Just giving you my little slice of interaction with him. So
right. What's going on, Broken Rockstar? I see you in here with your comments. We're going to talk about those probably towards the end of the video, so make sure you stick around for that. PR Nightmare is in the house as well, talking about the Warrior passing after his Hall of Fame speech. He says he has his autograph. That's dope, man. Really dope.
PR Nightmare. That's what the WWE PR had during that symposium.
Big facts, bro. Big facts. This roster, bro, let me tell you, there were certain moments when I lost it, Brian. You guys did a really good job of teasing this. Now, in my mind, I was thinking certain people had to be in, because we knew about the 30 years, but we're like, what matches can we get out of this? Yeah. So in my head, I'm thinking like, okay, we got to have Red and Yellow Hogan. Maybe they'll do NWO Hogan. Maybe we'll get lucky. Rock, Austin. You know who you're going to get. You're trying to piece the matches together. But then you start questioning certain people. So I wrote down the names of people who I love. Number 1, Hollywood Hogan. Probably got the loudest reaction with my group of friends that were around during this. You know why? Because the brother finally had the shirt rip, and when he was like,
yes, I was going to bring that up. I pushed for that so freaking hard, man. Like, you have no idea,
dude.
It was funny. And it was funny how hard I had to push for it, knowing how iconic of a thing that is. And I fucking hate Hulk Hogan. You know, I didn't like him back then. It's before the N-word comments. I just never was a fan of Hogan. But I knew that, hey, this is like the shirt rip is synonymous with him. If we're gonna have him in the game, and he's gonna be in so much of this mode, we've got to figure out a way to do this.
Yeah. And
so, you know, finally the animators at Yuke, they were like, okay, we understand, we get it. Because they thought it was going to be so expensive and time consuming. And I just I implored them and said, look, you know, if we don't have this, the fans are not going to be happy. I know it's a small thing, but it's an important thing.
And he's such a big character in it too. So it was good to see Hollywood Hogan in there. Razor Ramon was back. Like, dude, Razor Ramon, definitely a childhood. The bad guy, dripping the machismo, the gold. So you knew you got that match with Shawn Michaels, the ladder match. You were like, yes. So that was a good person. Big John Studd.
Yep.
Listen, that's just a small one, but when you get the people in there that you're like, yo, I could probably mess around and do some stuff with him in the universe mode, put him in a faction with King Kong Bundy.
I love King Kong Bundy.
Brian's first LJN action figure. See, I really watched this roster reveal.
Yeah, man. I've always had an affinity for King Kong Bundy because of that.
Shout out to his Married with Children appearance, man. What was it? His Al Bundy was related to him some way. He was
his wife's, was it Peg?
Yeah.
The cousin to Peggy.
Yeah, love it, dude. Married with Children, one of the funniest shows. If you guys have never seen it, go back and watch it. Definitely not for the people sensitive to today's topics in the world, but I crack up still when I see it. Goldberg was back for that doo-doo ass WrestleMania 20 match.
Yeah.
I gotta take you to task on 20, bro. I know which match we all really wanted to have in there, and you couldn't have the two matches that we probably really wanted from that show because of contractual agreements. And I know that that's actually going to come up, Bryan. So let's flip it to some questions really quick, man.
Okay.
Kurt Angle, did you guys try to get Kurt Angle? Was there any hope of a TNA contracted wrestler getting in this, or was it like, no, absolutely not?
Yeah, as far as I remember, and now granted this was a long time ago, but as far as I remember, anyone who was in TNA was just out of the question because it wouldn't have been worth the hassle for the amount of maneuvering and time that we needed to put in to get that done. Because that's a big part of it too. Was that when we reached out to some of these guys who were kind of like the Warriors and the Goldbergs, like it was like these are guys that at the time were not really on the good graces of WWE. And or vice versa. So the thing is, we had to reach out and start this early. Like we didn't really have time to kind of dig around and try to kind of hope and wait and see if maybe either the talent or WWE would give us the approval. We had to get this thing going as soon as possible because that would then impact the design of the mode, the implementation of the mode. So we needed to get the roster for that mode nailed down as soon as possible. And so because of that. Anyone that was associated with TNA was just a no-starter. It was like, no, it's not even going to be worth. We'll be it'll take us so long to get this thing situated that we would have lost so much time on the back end of actually developing and implementing the mode and the matches and all that. So, yeah, it was. We all knew, obviously, when it came to some of these WrestleManias that Kurt Angle not being in it was a big gaping hole. For the amount of matches that that he had at Mania. For me, it was WrestleMania 21. It's like I wanted his match with Shawn Michaels, but
top 5 for me, baby, all time top 5 WrestleMania matches.
Yeah, love same here. That's probably top 3 for me. But yeah, it was just that just couldn't get done.
We got another one that someone had to ask. We know why he who we shall not speak of couldn't be in there. I'm not even going to entertain that question. Roster question though. I can't remember if we talked about this before, but how many times did 2K try to contact Martha Hart about getting Owen Hart in the game for the WrestleMania 10 match?
So slight correction. It was THQ. It was THQ. This is still very much a THQ product. During that time. And I say that because I'm very protective of my THQ peeps, as far as everybody, because like it was 2K got involved during basically like once everything was pretty much all done. I want to say
they were marketing, right?
Yeah, they got in, but I want to say it was like the summer of 2013 is when they kind of got themselves more involved with things. But even then, it was more or less, like I said, my former boss at 2K was like he was around, more or less just kind of getting a feel for how things are done. Meeting people like Yuke, meeting us, but it was still very much all the same people from THQ that had been working on the project previous. So just still a slight correction there. And what was the other question? I'm sorry.
No. Just did you ever try to reach out to Martha Hart to get Owen Hart in for that WrestleMania 10 match?
That I don't know. But I know that her stance is such that she wants nothing to do with the WWE as it relates to her husband. So if Corey tried, he might have. But I mean, the things with her, she's been on record like so many times of just not wanting anything to do with them. So I would hazard a guess that we probably didn't even try.
I would say maybe direct your attention to the season ending of this season. I believe it's the end of May. Dark Side of the Ring. Martha Hart will be on there. I'm actually looking forward to that episode a lot because I want to hear her stance for once on it. I've heard Brett's stance. Like Brett wants Owen in these games. He wants him to be remembered because he feels like his legacy is disappearing because of this. And I totally agree with Bret Hart because of it. I would like to remember Owen for the good times now at this point versus everything else. But it's also Owen's wife's in charge of the estate, and she feels the way she feels, and I respect that too. So I'm interested to see what the family thinks of it altogether for them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too, and I think it's going to be her and Owen's kids are also going to be on that episode, talking about their father,
son and daughter, I believe, and they're both successful people now. They're grown, so it'll be very different. I can tell you guys this: most people don't know Martha took her kids and walked through the arena and walked through the exact same steps that Owen did before he went up there to do the stunt. That's wild stuff, man. So like I said, watch that episode of Dark Side of the Ring. Those are tremendous productions. If you guys don't know those stories, it's really good stuff.
It's on Vice. It's on Vice. Check it out. It's really good. Yeah, really good documentaries.
Yeah, David Schultz is on this week. Ask me if wrestling's fake. Ask me if wrestling's fake. See what happens. Brian, do you want to do another one? This is going to be a tough one. This is going to be a loaded one.
What's up? Yeah.
Johnny G in the chat wants to know, if THQ kept making the WWE games, how do you think the transition to next gen would have been for 2K15 and onwards? Because let me say this, Brian. I'm gonna give a shout out to my boy Matt Black. I haven't talked to Matt.
Matt. I know Matt.
Yeah, I haven't talked to Matt in a few years, but I remember listening to a podcast with him and someone else. And they were bringing up the fact that they had so much old code in the games, and they were kind of worried about if the transition, what would have happened with the transition and everything else, and how it would affect even 2K. So did you guys have a plan for moving on to the next generation? Where were you guys in that process?
Yeah, I mean, the plan, I mean, we had a plan. It had TSU still been around, and, 2K didn't. No, TSU didn't go out of business. I think maybe 15 probably would have ended up with slightly more features, but at the same time, like I mentioned earlier, anytime you make a transition from one console to the next, and the things that we were doing, I mean, you can see the leap in terms of like the visuals and everything from 14 to 15, from 360 to Xbox One. I mean, the games, they look completely different. They really do. And I love how the character models look in 14. I think this game in particular is aged very well, because it's got that stylized, almost kind of illustrated look to the characters. I really dig that.
Shit, bro, I'm about to say it. I think it's timeless. Yeah. Name another game where we're gonna get some of these guys like Yokozuna. I don't know another occasion where you could bring up putting him in, except for, dude, we gotta have that match with Bret and Yoko at WrestleMania 10. Like, that was a great excuse to put them in. Like, I thought after the Attitude Era mode, it couldn't get better than that. Corey, if that was you solely who thought of this, thank you, brother, because to me, that was a hook, line, and sinker, and I knew WWE would bite it because they love that type of shit. Like, as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, THQ's so smart, bro. These dudes then threw out the fish. They were like, yeah, you want to do a 30 years of WrestleMania mode, highlighting all of the greatest things that WWE's done? Vince was probably in that office losing it like, hell yeah, I like that. 30 years. Yeah, we're coming up on it. We've been around for this long. We've done this many great things. They probably bought in. They were like, but by the way, we need to get Ultimate Warrior. Can we have your blessing? Absolutely. Yeah, he was part of a lot of those great shows. And cloth physics. Get Hogan's shirt rip in there. Macho Man's jacket moving. I saw someone bring that up earlier. I saw what your comment was. The cloth physics. Everything just worked with this. So genius for coming up with that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Vince could have given a fuck about any of that.
I know.
But it's nice to think that he would. He had people in his stead, approving and assisting on that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, they just want a game that is not going to be ripped to shreds, and that's going to sell a decent amount.
I know Vince knew about 2K20 this week. I know he knew about that from that investors call. I'll save that for later though.
That was the most that I ever heard him talk about the game.
Yeah.
But again, to go back to the question about how things would have been different, I mean, I think that there would have been a lot of differences had TSU not gone bankrupt, and we continued to do the game. If so, for no other reason than the fact that we wouldn't have had to go through the layoffs, or not even layoffs, the releases that we had to do with a lot of our team members. Again, well, I can talk about those releases when I get to 2K15. And the fact that we had to basically, when I say we, like the team members, the designers, the staff that were kept on board the project, in order to do so, we had to relocate from Southern California to Northern California. So, not only are we going through a console transition, we're going through a living transition. My team members, my girlfriend at the time who worked on the team as a translator, we were packing, we were moving, so there was a lot of time that was spent just getting ourselves up north and getting ourselves situated at the 2K office. So that definitely took some time away from the production and development of the game, just because just life shit. So had THQ stayed around, that wouldn't have been an issue at all, and we would have just kept doing what we were doing. I mean, that interruption definitely would become a hindrance. Not that it needed to, but it definitely became one once we got up there. And the management styles were completely different, which again is I'm talking more about 2K15, but yeah. So I'm sure I'll touch on that later on in this podcast on the show.
We'll get into that. Mark Goldman has a question about the 30 years of WrestleMania while we're talking about it. He says that he knows that all of the cutscenes were mocap for it. Was there a time frame of, let's say, like 1 week to capture all the cutscenes, or was it sandwiched in between move sessions?
So it was, how do we do it? Like when we, at this point in time, like our mocap shoots would go, so basically, so gameplay shoots and, story mode, single player shoots, universe shoots were usually separate. So at this point in time, like I was directing in-game motions, moves, taunts, entrances, victory scenes, basically, the motions that you just see when you play the game. So I was doing those in addition to, because I also had to direct entrances, I was doing the entrances for the 30 years of WrestleMania. The cutscenes were done separately. So basically we would have, like, let's say a week of gameplay motions. So where we start on a Monday to Friday, every day in the mocap studio, banging out our shot list. And then maybe the following week, the 30 years of WrestleMania designer, who I need to mention. So Corey came up with the idea for 30 years of WrestleMania, but we had brought in a new designer to design it. And that's my homeboy, Jody Hicks. You can follow him on Twitter. He's at Uncle_Jody. But Jody came in and he designed 30 years of WrestleMania. So everyone who owned a certain part of the game were then responsible for mocap, for directing the motion capture of their part of the game. So he was there directing the cutscenes for 30 years of WrestleMania. And then we had another designer, Christo, who was actually not. He wasn't put in charge of the universe yet. Actually, I think probably the universe cutscenes and the 30 years of WrestleMania cutscenes were all done in the same shoot. So that's how they were split up.
Real quick, is Christo the dude from NBA 2K?
No.
Okay.
No.
I was gonna say,
no, Christo,
I've heard that name before. He must have transitioned over to 2K.
No, he didn't. No, Christo was with us at THQ. He started out as an intern and he became a designer. And when we made the transition from SoCal to NorCal, he was brought along with us, and then he was given ownership of Universe Mode.
Okay.
So yeah, he never worked for NBA. I mean, maybe he does now. I don't know, but
because I remember a year or two ago somebody had that name. I thought working with my boy Czar, who does 2K. I won't put his government name out here. Shout out to Czar though, big homie Czar.
Yeah, I think it might be a different Christo, but
yeah. Let's see. So that was good. Thomas Polster said, got all of the Married with Children DVD. Those gave me a lot of important lessons in life.
Yeah.
Hashtag no ma'am.
No ma'am.
Oh, good Lord. NWF Universe says, in all the previous games, you could drag from the head and legs on grounded opponents, but in 2K14 and onward, you can only drag from the side on the ground. Any reason that was taken out?
Probably just to try to limit. It's one less thing to have to spot check when it comes to QAing and just in terms of the animation load. I noticed that too playing because is it still like that to this day where you only drag from the side? I haven't played 20, but I know in 19 I think it was still the side.
I think it's side on 19, so I don't mess with today's. Sorry, boys.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was probably due just to that. You could save a little bit on the animation, and there's just more better control when you were dragging from the side. Like if you were trying to set up an opponent either perpendicular to the ropes or in position for you to mount the top rope and do like a diving move. If I remember.
Yeah, this game was loaded with content, man. We had all the WrestleMania arenas from 1 through 29, had a custom WrestleMania. Like, dude, this was jam-packed with shit. Like, everything you could have ever wanted to recreate. Yeah. The problem is when you guys set bars so high, like, it's tough for someone to, like, come in and duplicate that. And I think that's part of the issues that would come later on with this company. The bar was set too high, and you're still competing with the game that was on PS3, dog, and you haven't been able to match it, do anything to it yet. But
again, it's like I mentioned at the last episode, last week. We wanted each one of these games to just be to stand on their own and kind of have their own identity. It was never a thing to be like, oh, well, let's do, And again, like I said, certain things do make it over to the next game. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's just something special about this and how, it stands on its own the same way that 13 did, with the Attitude Era. Like, these games have their own unique personalities, kind of, in a sense, and Ooh. I don't know. I mean, yeah. Because honestly, I mean, as I mentioned also, like, the roster is largely dictated by the single-player campaign, the same way that the arenas are, as far as extra arenas. You got to account for, well, what does season mode need? So it's always cool when you choose to go a particular route for your single player game mode or experience, where it allows you to bring in all this extra cool content that you wouldn't ordinarily get. Which I have an example of that when it comes into 2K19, where, not to jump too ahead of the curve, but like I suggested and I reached out. I said, hey, if we're gonna have for the story mode, if we're having this kind of invasion angle with, what was it, the BWO?
Yeah.
I was like,
BCW.
First of all, BCW. I was like, the whole Baron Blade thing. I'm like, I never liked that. I'm like, why do you keep bringing this dumbass character over? Like, I think if people like him, I think they like him ironically so. Maybe I'm wrong, but it was just corny to me. But my whole thing was, instead of having this fake promotion, I'm like, you do realize that Evolve is a partner of the WWE. Why not reach out and see if we can get Evolve in the game and do an Evolve NXT type of invasion? That way you can get an Evolve Arena. I'm sure, Gabe Sapolsky, he runs that and he works for WWE. I mean, they've got that working relationship, so, again, it would have been one of those things where it's like, oh, for story mode, we got Evolve in the game. We got an Evolve Arena. We've got, some of the Evolve talent, instead of like making up these guys, on our own.
No, but that's dude, you could have got some of those guys some work too. Austin Theory, these guys would later become your superstars. I mean, look at them; they're on TV now.
I know, yeah, that was my pitch, and I remember getting feedback back from 2K saying, "Oh, we don't think that's possible." Evolve is its own separate thing, and I was like, "Well, no, they're a feeder for NXT." It's like, but anyway, yeah,
you gotta be in the know, brother, right?
Yeah.
MTO asks, after the success of the Attitude Era mode, was there any talk of adding Ruthless Aggression mode before 30 years of WrestleMania?
I'm not aware of any talk about a Ruthless Aggression mode. I mean, the Attitude Era is definitely known for its thing. The ascent of Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H. Like, there was a lot going on during the Attitude Era, and I'm not taking shots at the Ruthless Aggression Era, but I mean, I think the name of that era is probably better than the product itself. I mean, an argument could have been made that we were kind of still in that, because all the guys that debuted in the Ruthless Aggression era were still prominently featured and were all the main guys that were currently in the game.
Yeah.
That as an era just doesn't really stand out as something that, we probably felt would have been worthy of, a deep dive of, recreating. So yeah, I think that's why we went from the Attitude to, what's the next biggest thing, which was, of course, WrestleMania.
Right. I'm gonna jump past the WrestleMania stuff. If you guys have never played this game, this mode, go back and play it. I'm telling you, you'll have fun. Bryan, is there one match before we go past this that really was like your favorite? Anyone that means something special to you?
From the 30 years of WrestleMania?
Yeah. One, is there like a favorite Mania match that you were just like, oh, this is kind of dope? That you just sit back and like, yeah.
Well, okay, I will say I think Jody did a really good job with the WrestleMania 24 match, the retirement match, Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels. I thought that one that stands out to me. I thought we did a good job with that.
That table break looked a lot smoother in the game than when Shawn did it.
Yeah. I thought they did a really good job with the WrestleMania 6, the Hogan and Warrior match, the King Kong Bundy and Hogan match. I mean, I'm just like I said, I love King Kong Bundy, so I was going to enjoy that no matter what.
Yeah, shout out to Bundy, man. Rest in peace, man. Great legend. The streak, Bryan. The streak mode. Yo, whoever came up with this, thank you for bringing back Slobber Knocker. Like, that's basically what it was. Like, we needed that back. I know it was just for Undertaker, but this mode was fun, man. Like, you could sit around with your buddies. You're like, who wants the controller next? Come get your ass whooped by the Undertaker. Go ahead.
I thank you, Conrad, for saying that. I think you're the first person that I've talked to about this mode that actually really enjoyed the Defend the Streak. Because I know it kind of seemed like an afterthought compared to, Beat the Streak. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate that. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
This mode was this came out of my head. I will say though that the original, I can't wait to talk about this. This is one of the most, I'm so proud of the streak. So the original idea for this, and I remember sitting in Corey's office and he wanted to do something where, honestly, he was thinking about doing a showcase before it became a showcase. Like he wanted to do a mode where we just kind of went through all of the Undertaker's WrestleMania matches and kind of allow players to relive them, experience them, that sort of thing. And I was like, yeah, man, that's awesome. But it quickly became apparent that we weren't going to be able to get or license all of his opponents for it. And if we were not going to be able to, or we were unable to secure all of his opponents up to that time, then that initial idea kind of fell apart.
Who ruined it? I gotta step in. Who ruined it? Was it El Gigante?
Well, I mean, to say he ruined it makes it sound like he's passed away. I don't think he's not even.
Is he gone?
I think so.
Dude, I did not know that.
Yeah. It was just licensing stuff. It just would have been very difficult to get some of these guys. And yeah, I remember Corey saying, it might have been like 2 weeks later, it's like, yeah, that whole like Undertaker idea, it's like, if we can't get everybody, yeah. And so I remember going back to my desk and I just sat on it for a bit because I was like keen on the idea of doing something special with Taker. And so a couple days later, I just went back to him and I pitched him the idea of the streak. And I said, okay, well, maybe we can't do a complete retelling of all of his matches, but what if we just came up with an idea where we just turn, and this is what I use in my pitch. It's like, we've been making this game for years now. Like, you play an exhibition game of, Heath Slater, all respect to Heath Slater, that's my boy, versus Undertaker in an exhibition match. It's like, if you're good at the game, like, there's really no challenge there. It's like you beat Undertaker just as easy as you would, Santino or John Cena if you're good at the game. And so I pitched him the idea of doing this mode where we honor this streak that he has at WrestleMania by basically turning this encounter into a boss fight. And I pitched the idea of like, you go into WrestleMania, you pick any wrestler, created or otherwise, and your whole main mission is to try to get a win against Undertaker at the show of shows. And we're going to put all these bells and whistles in there. We're going to make it really hard and difficult, challenging, but not frustrating. And he was like, okay, yeah, I kind of dig that. He was like, put a design together and let's go from there. So I wrote a design, pitched it back to him. He gave me the green light. It got translated and then, sent to the homies in Japan at Yuke's. They really dug the idea. And from there, it was just me working with, one designer at Yuke's. It was me, like, I give credit to everybody who worked on the games. Everybody contributes. This is one part of the game where outside of the designer at Yuke's, this shit was all me, dog. Like I drove this 1,000% from coming up with the match itself, the experience of what it is to go against Undertaker. You know, the blackout, where he, you know, the lights go out, he shows up behind you with that finisher.
That was you with the Go-Go Platter too? Or I'm sorry, Hell's Gate.
Hell's Gate. Yeah, like all these things, because I was trying to come up, and I actually came up with a whole bunch more. But here's another thing about this mode that I'm really proud of, is that when I was given the green light to go ahead with this, we were given very little budget. When I say we, you know, me and like Yuke's. It wasn't like we were given the green light to kind of go balls to the wall and add all this brand new features and content for this one part of the game. So me being, you know, the fucking wrestling nerd on the team and the guy that, you know, actually plays the game at home for fun, because I know I've got I'm like a Rain Man when it comes to all the assets that we have in the game or have had when it comes to small cutscenes or whatever. And I basically just stole a lot of scenes from Universe. I stole some scenes from maybe Story Designer. And I said, hey, we've got these scenes here. Like when you start the match and you have that brief little face-to-face with Undertaker before you guys, you know, back off and the match starts. I'm pretty sure that came from a Universe cutscene. And I was like, let's add that to this. The blackout, I'm pretty sure it was a Universe thing. I said, we'll incorporate that asset and use it here. I had to get tricksy with it. The only like brand new things that we mocapped or created for it, either mocap or programmed, was that Hell's Gate sneak when you went to like ground grapple him and he'd snatch in the Hell's Gate, and Undertaker's that OMG, that tope that he did. We created that brand new for this mode. But everything else was us just being clever and just trying to tuning the match and, you know, coming up with a way to make it challenging yet fair. The online leaderboard was my idea, because like I've been wanting to have some sort of online component to the game that doesn't rely on me having to play against some asshole. So I was like, we can just have you against the AI. You know, we'll score it. You know, we have a match rating system and work with Yuke to spec that out. And just like everything, man, it was. I hadn't had this much fun working on the game since when I was working with the gameplay team at Yuke's on SVR 11. And I cherish this mode. Like I worked with the artists. I approved all the menu art, the UI. I pitched to have, when you go into the mode, just like with Corey, like when in Attitude Era, you go in there and you have the background music was evocative of the Attitude Era. I was like, hey, when you go into this mode, the background music is just gonna, you know, cycle through all of the unlocked Undertaker entrance themes. I had these WrestleMania write-ups where you can go and just check out all of his past victims, and I wrote all of those descriptors of all those encounters with the assistance of my boy Aubrey. I think he did about 5 or 6 of them, because I got to a point where I was getting a little, my bandwidth was starting to get a little bit, you know, frayed. But the defend the streak, you know, I added that, you know, part of it too, just so you can have those 2 separate modes. Man, and like the unlocks, like I curated all those unlockable images. I had access to WWE's Art Bank, which I'm not sure if people are familiar with what that is, but anyone who does business with WWE as far as like a licensee, you know, the WWE, they have what they call an art bank, where it's through like an FTP, and it just has just a treasure trove of like archive, like action shots from matches, promotional images, logos, just anything associated with WWE. And so I got access to that, and I'm going through and I'm ordering all these images for unlocks for all the WrestleManias. Like I went to town on this thing, man, and I freaking loved it.
Dude,
it was
simple is best. No, simple is best when it comes to this, man. Mark Goldman brought up something in the chat that I wanted to bring up too. He said the choke slam from when Undertaker's laying down and he catches you by the throat. Another great animation. Like,
yeah.
Oh man, no, dude, this was just fun, man. Like, I want these types of modes in games, even if it's like a survival mode and you're just going against everybody and it doesn't stop until you lose. Like, run through people's attires, whatever. It doesn't matter, dude. That's just pure fun in games. I love it, dude. So,
and it goes back to what we were talking about a couple episodes ago, where I was asked a question about, you know, the difficulty of the game, and, you know, because like a lot of the hardcore, and like this mode, the streak was made for the hardest of the hardcore, the guys that buy the game every year, they play it. The first thing they do is they switch it to legend difficulty, like they're looking for a challenge. And that was my mindset going in, where it was like, this is that, that match where as good as you are at the game, it's going to test you, and that was like the whole idea behind this. And then having the leaderboard, to see how high you can get up on there. The highest I got on 360 was 4. And I was so fucking happy. I was like, oh shit, made the top 5. It didn't last very long, but I made number 4. But I just love that, even where you just got bragging rights to see how how better you did against him than others.
Right, and like you said, you didn't have to play against a-holes online and deal with messing around with them. That was fun, dude. I would love to see something like that implemented in future wrestling games. Wink face. So let's see here before we get into kind of the end of this, and I know I got some rapid questions that I'm going to ask you again. NWO DLC, did that just come up because we had Hogan, Hall, and Nash in the game? So, let's get Big Papa Pump. Yeah,
that was the reason for that. It's like we had Hollywood Hogan, so it was like, hey, this is an obvious thing. Let's get the rest of the NWO in. So that was really cool. Like the DLC for this game, for me, was like, this is when like the DLC really started to kind of, well, I can't say really started to pick up, but I was a fan of the DLC for this particular year's game. I thought we did it. We had some really cool content available for this one.
Yeah,
and like I thought the moves pack for this one was better than the first.
The soda plunge, I wrote down some of these. The Danielson special we had. Yep. The lung blower for Tommaso Ciampa. One of my I could tell there was a lot of like Ring of Honor respect on this. A lot of Kevin Steen, El Generico moves. That
was just me, putting my indie wrestling fandom out to the world to see, because I curated all those moves. And I even I asked our project manager Frank, I think I mentioned him before, Frank the Tank. I was like, hey, they just signed. I was like, NXT just signed this guy who I'm a big fan of. I saw him at PWG. This guy's the freaking truth. His name is Pac. I would love to get his moves in the game. Is there any way that you could, reach out to WWE to see if they'll allow him to do mocap for us? And so Frank, being the cool guy that he was like, yeah, it doesn't hurt to ask. So he reached out to them. They said yes. So Pac showed up, or Adrian Neville at the time. He showed up and mocapped, his entrance, the Red Arrow, a whole bunch of his moves, and that was really cool.
It was those matches with Prince Devitt, bro. I remember watching those. I think maybe it was you who shared it and I saw it. I don't remember. This might have even been like ages ago on Twitter. I remember somebody shared it, and maybe I talked to you about it during that time period then, but I just remember seeing that match. I was like, dude, this match is super dope, man. Just watching those two go back and forth at it. It was like uploaded on YouTube. Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
You always took care of the game, man. We had Summer Rae, Fandango, Big E was in the game, Nikki Bree.
Yep.
Yo, let me ask this. Was this a joke that Virgil was free? Like, did they play my man Virgil? Like, come on, man. Hashtag meat sauce, bro. What's up with Virgil getting disrespected?
You know what? I do think that was done intentionally, almost as like a rib to Virgil. Because I remember, I won't say, but it's a friend of mine in marketing, because he was the one that kind of pushed to get Virgil in there and then to make him free. I thought it was pretty funny. Hey, he still got paid no matter what, so it's a good paycheck for Virgil.
And everybody's got a price for the $1 million man who was in the game already, so it made sense.
Exactly.
Dusty Rhodes, Bruno Sammartino getting put into this.
That's right, yeah. Bruno was in this one. Yeah, that's right.
I don't remember ever using Bruno. I know it would have just been like body slams and arm drags a lot with him and stuff, but
I did his moveset. That's pretty much what it was.
Yeah. And I respect it. Authentic is the way to go. And Jake the Snake, like, you guys did a lot of nice, like, complimentary touches with the roster that you had. You were like, this person would be a good fit for DLC. Like, you made me want this DLC, so I couldn't be mad at it. Bryan,
we wanted there to be synergy between the wrestlers we were offering, so that they kind of fit within the modes that we had in the game, So like if you're like me, who's a huge one of my favorite WrestleMania matches is Bret Hart. No, that's not what I'm talking about. We didn't have Roddy Piper. Shit, never mind. My bad. But the point still stands. Like you had all these, these legends, and then with the classic WrestleMania arenas, it was just a really good fit.
So, somebody also brought up Chuck E. T's Omega Driver / Awful Waffle was in.
Awful Waffle. Yep. Chuck E. T's my dude, man. I'm a big fan of Chuck Taylor, so yeah, I wanted to get that in there.
Me too. Let's see here. So let's start with a bunch of these questions, Brian. We're gonna try and run through these because I know Original Biggie hit me with a bunch too, and I'll see if we answered any of these going through. But Mark Goldman first says, off topic, I hope y'all at Yuke's with the new game make something like the streak difficulty wise. I'd only play on that difficulty, and maybe that's something you could look forward to. So that's kind of more of a statement.
Yeah.
But he wants whatever game you guys make to have that difficulty level.
All right, that's good to know. Because, honestly, when it comes to difficulty levels, especially when you're talking about increased difficulty levels, you never want to alienate, because there is a way you can get to where it's like, where it's just like, okay, you're just obviously just reversing just to reverse, So there is that fine line of making it difficult but fair. So I appreciate that feedback. And
that 2K cheese, John Cena, The Rock, WrestleMania 29 at the end, I was like, bro, I went to the outside. I was like, we're going to reverse out here, bro. I ain't got time for this in the ring. Taking my chances on the L.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure some of those reverses were just baked in.
Mm-hmm. Like, no matter what I did, that's when I knew. I was like, yo, bro, I tried to, like, toss him up, and then it was, like, reverse, and I'm like, nah, bro, this is rigged. This is rigged. I was like, I know 2K is taking over. The cheese is in, bro. The cheese is in. But, yeah. So that was his first one. Chris Morgan has come in and said, create a moveset question. Any reason some areas of the moveset got extremely neglected, such as running top rope exploder moves and standing tag team double team moves for like 7 to 8 years now? Laugh out loud.
Yeah. I feel you on that one, especially the top rope exploder moves. Because I was the one that, like that category is in there because of the changes that I made for SBR 11. Yeah, it just comes down to, again, I've said it in previous episodes, like cost. That's not a position that has. I mean, not that you can't just create moves for it, but when you're also trying to update the move sets and get the new motions for the new roster additions and everything else. Some of those other categories, the ones that whose visibility and use may not be as active as, say, standing grapple strikes, ground stuff, corner. You kind of have to. It's almost like you got to kill a couple of your darlings or your children sometime. Where it's like I'd love to do that, but us trying to add motions to this category would then take motions away from the other category that. Just in terms of playing the basic game, has far more visibility and use. But I know, yeah, that's one of those things that always kind of was sticking my craw too, where I was constantly wanting to add moves to certain categories, especially like the ones you mentioned, the ones that had been neglected. And he mentioned the standing tag team as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was one where we kind of. Actually, I know. I was going to say for whatever reason, it was. It basically was because it was a lot. It was easier and more cost effective to add to the tag team moveset by triggering moves from the corner than from the grapple hold, because there are many different motions you have to account for to get the superstars in place to initiate them. So again, it just comes down to cost. So it's like we could have added more to them. But then you're sacrificing. So maybe we added, let's say, I'm just throwing these numbers out. Maybe in one year's game we added 15 new tag team moves from the corner position. That number would have been, or just the overall number would have been greatly reduced had we tried to fit more into the standing tag team. But it's not the greatest answer. And maybe I probably should have done a better job of trying to, be better at, balancing out, what's added to what position versus the other, but yeah.
I know my one boy every year used to ask for that Steiner Brothers Bulldog, man. He would be on you about that. I remember.
Yeah.
I can't think of his name. I think it's Chris too, but yeah, just
we added it though, right?
I can't remember. I think you got a lot of his moves in that he asked for one time. Whatever year it was where you added a bunch of tag moves, not '09, but later, you guys did end up getting a bunch of them in for him. So he was happy with it. But he still, I don't know if the Steiner Bulldog ever made it in though.
I think it did. It was one of the more recent 2K games. I have to double check. I can't
remember which tag team did it. Maybe it was Gable and Jordan when they first got put in. I can't remember, but.
Yeah,
maybe it did get added because they were using a lot of their moves. But Brian, we're getting more questions coming in, so we're gonna have to fly through these bad boys.
Okay. Sorry.
Let's see here. No, this isn't you. They're just more people are just adding on right now. I know you dealt with gameplay a lot. Mark says, was there ever an option for the Royal Rumble that example limits the people to current only or legends only?
You know, that's a very, very good idea, and I actually, you thought of it before me. I remember, I think it might have been, what game was it? It was either 2K 18 or 19, because I was playing at home, and it was 2K 19. It was 2K 19, and I think it might have had I was playing the story mode, and I'm seeing all these kind of rando characters coming out, and it dawned on me, it's like, oh man, we really should have added something to where you could choose, like if you like basically to turn off. Or to implement something where it's like if you had Sting in the Rumble, you could turn off Sting 89 or Sting 99 from coming in, where it's like, no, this is the only Sting, or this is the only thing, to kind of put those kind of restrictions in there. I wish I would have come up with that a lot sooner, but that is a really good idea.
And bring back Sting coming down WCW Revenge style with the bat. One hit, knock somebody over the top rope. Man, I remember the first time we ever played like a 40-man online Rumble. That was like the greatest ending we ever saw. Sting came down with the bat, smacked somebody who was like Scott Hall over the top rope, and we were like, yo, that's wild, bro. You just lost to Sting. He's like, that was cool, though. Yeah. Another thing, Brian, I always wanted for the Elimination Chambers, why can't you just set them to random? I've always wondered that. Like when we would play online, I always just wanted a random setting versus everybody getting this position. All right, I won last time, so I'm moving to this one. Like I always just wanted things like put that random option in. Like honestly, it can be really random. We don't care.
I'm pretty sure we do have that.
It never worked. It says it, but it always went by the position you were in. Trust me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got sick in the chat who will probably agree that we always had to get in the positions because we were like, nah, bro, that's 6. Back up. Get out that spot. Oh, I didn't know.
Oh, damn. Okay. Well, that must have just been a bug then.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's the first time I'm hearing about that.
Yeah, it said random, but it never worked. Vampiro wants to know, you didn't have Piper in the game, but you had his head in the Superstar Heads thing. Glad we had that tide us over for full customization 2K15 and onwards. What happened to Piper?
Yeah, Superstar Heads. I forgot about those.
Yeah, Piper was someone who I thought would have been in the game for WrestleMania 1. Something, but...
well, here's a quick little anecdote about that. So... You just recalled the memory. So we did want to do the main event of WrestleMania 1. We just couldn't, I believe it was Mr. T, we couldn't come to terms with him being in the game. I'm pretty sure that's how that ended up happening. I think he might have wanted more money than we were willing to give. But he was, that was definitely one of the matches that I know Corey for sure wanted to do. We just couldn't do it, which is why we ended up doing the... what was that? The Body Slam Challenge.
Yeah.
For WrestleMania.
Yeah, that worked out well though for what you had to put in there. Resurrected Sean said, "Ask Brian why WWE Live wasn't implemented in WWE 2K14, please." So Live was I had to look this up beforehand. I had to do my homework. Was all the camera cut scenes? Remember in 13 how we said they were like doing the realistic cut scenes and everything else? He wanted to know how come that didn't get implemented coming over. Was it the fact that you had I'm thinking of the WrestleMania mode right now. My mind went blank. The
30 years
of Mania. Was it because the camera styles would change over the years? Is that why it didn't make it in, or?
Yeah, wow. I didn't even notice that was gone. I honestly feel bad. I honestly don't know why that was removed. I don't have a satisfactory answer for that.
That was the only thing I could think of that maybe you guys wanted to have it in, but the styles of shots changed over the years too. Like I said, I like how you had the grainy footage for the old ones, and then it was getting better once you got to like 10. It was still a little grainy, but not as bad. Then once you get to like WrestleMania 28, you're like, man, this is perfect, cool, crystal clear. I like it. Minus that Jericho jacket. I saw someone bring that up in the chat too. Like, come on, man, y'all could have at least made it light up. Let's see. Resurrected Sean also asked about authentic ring sounds when moves were performed. Why wasn't it carried over or expanded on in 2K15? 2K15 ring sounds horrible. Do we save that? Is that going to be just part of the rant later? I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, not a rant, but yeah, that's part of the 15 discussion. Just be sure to bring that back up.
I think I have it written down too for beforehand. Don't worry, Sean. We'll bring that back up. He might rant. Question, Sick ass, did you ever beat the AJ Styles the tower for AJ Styles in 2K19?
Okay. So, no, I didn't.
Me either.
But I'm gonna say something about that. So, okay, look. I get that by going through this tower, at the end of it, you are eligible potentially to win $1 million.
And real quick, he asked how you felt about Golden AJ too, as the reward.
Okay. I went through that, and I'm really good at the game. I mean, I've said that before, and I'm fuck it. Yes, I'm bragging. I'm good at the game. I mean, I should be. I fucking designed it. My biggest problem with that challenge is that I think it was kind of bullshit that the counter damage setting was turned on. I lost. I think I got more than 3/4 of the way through, and I remember losing because your damage is carried over, which I'm fine with. Whatever attack my character absorbs, I'll eat that damage. But the fact that when I am playing the game and I am successfully countering, or not that. If I'm countered by the opponent, that counter incurs damage on me. I can't control that. You know what I mean? I can only control my ability to play defense. And I think because we do have an option, or we used to have an option in the game where you can turn the reversal damage on or off. I thought it was kind of cheesy that setting was turned on because you're playing against these AI opponents, and there's no way to not absorb a shit ton amount of damage just by trying to win. And so that's like the only critique that I have about that tower is that I think it still would have been a challenge by turning that thing off, but it would have been a lot more fair because I remember getting rolled up like leverage pens at the start of a match because I'd gone through so many opponents, and because of me winning, but at the same time, you're playing against a harder AI, they're countering and they're doing moves on you, and you get that damage. I just would have turned that off. But okay, that's my rant on that one. And the golden AJ, I thought looked pretty dope.
Yeah. Dude, no offense. When I could think of certain people in that tower, like Bobby Roode usually pissed me off. He would dictate how it was going to go, usually, how he acted in the beginning. And then Anderson and Gallows always did some shit that pissed me off, too, like during it. Like, they kept kicking out of shit. And I'm like, dude, stay down. It's not like you went on TV. Like, stay down, bro. It's over. They were kicking out of Styles clashes and shit. I was like, come on. If this was New Japan, I would get it, but not here. Mark Goldman said the Doomsday Bulldog was added in 2K17. Thank you, Mark, for that.
That's what I thought. Thank you, brother.
Six said, what was the ultimate goal for online play?
For 14?
Yes. Or for, I guess, period, maybe. Six, one of the XGW guys. So I think he always, we always kind of cared about online and like, what were you guys thinking long term for online? Like, was it ever going to be leagues? Were there ever going to be esports? Was there a vision for this, or was it get it up? Everyone's got online. Let's just have online.
I'll be honest. Like out of all the things that we did year over year, like our online, we never gave online the attention that it probably needed. And I say that not in terms of feature set. And I've talked about my experience with online throughout the course of this series with you, Conrad, and I've said I really didn't have, outside of giving some feedback here and there, I didn't involve myself with online all that much. But I do remember that, wow, it was a long time ago. I wrote a design in 2007 for online leagues and online championships. This long freaking design doc. And I remember Yuke's basically like reading through it, and they're like, wow, this is there's a lot of stuff here. We're not sure, I'm not sure this is feasible. And that honestly was like my last time actively, working, doing any kind of design work for online.
Brian, it's time to bring it back, brother. For all my fellow leaguers, we need something like that back. I don't know how it can be implemented. I don't know if you start in baby steps, but I think that's something that people want back. Online championships, things like that.
Yeah.
Because I love that in Fight Night. That was one of my favorite things was I got the belt. I got to go online and defend the bad boy.
Yeah, you have to defend it. Yeah, man, I wish.
Do you remember getting your creative championship taken in the old games? Like, bro, that used to hurt my soul. I'm like, yo, bro, you took my belt, man. You took my belt.
And it's on the memory card. It's like, oh, it's mine now, son. No. When it comes to online, I know internally at Yuke's, like whatever, like online, and the rise of esports and all that. Like that's definitely something that I know one of my coworkers is very, very heavily invested in, and I know that whatever our next project is going to be, it's going to like on the online feature set is going to really get the attention that is long deserved for whatever we do. So I know that, like I said, I've had meetings with him about that already. So it is our next project. The online gameplay is definitely going to be a huge, huge element of it.
Yeah. Like I said, all right, guys, I'm going to try and run through these quickly as possible for you guys because I did promise Biggie I would answer his questions too. How hard is it to implement a new weapon into the game? Because he wants to know why some of the weapons were never added in or brought back.
It's not difficult. It's just again it's cost. You add a new weapon. You have to. You got to create the model of the weapon. You have to account for all of the different attack types you can do for that weapon, interruptions. Like there's a lot of animations involved with that. And so weapon stuff can really start to add up over time. And when it comes to, why were certain weapons in one game and not the other, specifically when we make the leap to next gen, which is now current gen, it's because that animation data has to be, again, created from scratch. Like not just the animation data, but the model itself. So you're almost like starting back at square zero in a sense. And so you kind of start with getting the basics, the chair, the, kendo stick, the steel steps. It goes down to time and amount of cost that you want to attribute to this versus maybe something else.
Let's see here. Mr. Travis Starr wants to know, in create an entrance mode, all last gen games, you could change the camera angles in each part of the entrance. Why did this not carry over to the next gen of games?
Wow, I don't know. I really do not know about that. I thought that functionality was in there.
Now, you know what though? We'll talk about that in 15 because I got some thoughts on that stuff. We'll get to that, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Even in 19, you can't do that.
Maybe later it got implemented, but I know in 15 you couldn't at first.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Floodwater wants to know Mr. Floodwater 123 wants to know, why did you reuse the same trophies for nearly every game? He's a trophy chaser.
I remember doing trophies for the early games when I first got on. Like that was one of those assignments that are given to like the junior designers on the team. So I remember doing them for 07 and 08. Maybe 09, but like by the time we got to 2010, like that kind of work was passed off to like our interns and like the junior designers. So I haven't been involved in any kind of trophies or achievements in a long time. If they're more of the same, I would just say it's just a lack of imagination on the part of the person that's designing the trophies and achievements. And I will say I don't ever remember there being anybody, like I don't remember Corey ever reviewing my list of achievements and trophies, or I don't even know if we had anybody outside of it, reviewing them for standard practices for like Sony and Microsoft. So that probably.
But the annual game titles always kept them the same. You know what I mean? Like score a touchdown with your quarterback, shoot a 3-pointer from make a half court shot. Like, it's the same ones usually every year. Flood also asked, why was online servers so bad?
We had difficulties with our online functionality for sure. I'd like to think that it got better over time, but that was definitely one of those things that always was an issue that we struggled with, yearly.
Shout out to KC Classic in the chat. What's going on, brother? My real brother. So good to have you in here.
What up, KC?
Six said, I'm pretty confident I give Bryan a run for his money 1v1. Bryan 1v1 sometime, bro. He said, I'd love to have that I be the game developer as a feather in my cap. This sounds like the real Sick. No cap.
Anytime. I'm always looking for a challenge when I play these games. So yeah, anytime. Conrad's got my tag information. Just pass it off.
Yeah, don't worry. One day if you see us on in a chat, just pop in there and talk your mess. Be like, yo, what's up? Where's that punk at? Where you at, bro? Just close Biggie's. Let me see. So Biggie goes through a couple here. He's got 3. So he said, number 1, here we go, for 14. Was it a budget decision to not add Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker WrestleMania 25, 30 years of WrestleMania?
What was the 25 match for that?
Was it Randy Orton and Triple H?
Yeah, I was, as soon as I asked that question, I was like, oh, I think it was that match.
Cringe.
Man, I don't know why they chose that match over Taker and HBK. That is a really good question.
Maybe because they had the 26. Maybe they didn't want to double dip.
That's probably what it is, because I know they had that one. I played that one not too long ago. Yeah, I guess maybe that was it. They felt that.
Because some people like 26 better because of the build-up. You could tell a better story with 20. 25's build-up was just kind of like, okay, cool. And it just turned into something that was magical when you were watching it. 26 had the great build-up, though. Like I said, bro, I could do the whole, Undertaker, I can beat you. You just know how it goes.
Yeah, it definitely was a thing of not wanting to have the same match back-to-back. But honestly, I would have chosen their 25 match over doing 26.
Obi-Wan kind of brought up another statement about matches you would have added to the 30 years of WrestleMania. He said he would have added the triangle match at WrestleMania 16 or WrestleMania 2000, TLC 2 at WrestleMania 17. Bruh, I would have been happy with that. Kurt Angle versus Benoit as well, but I know you couldn't add that match. Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio at 21 and the first ever Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
We addressed the Kurt Angle thing before. Did you make a case for improving things for the submission and physics systems, or was it too late to make any changes before going to next generation?
I mean, I honestly don't remember. I don't remember any discussions, about the physics. I mean, I know. Are you talking about like what we had in 2011 versus like bringing that kind of back to?
Yeah, I think you want to know. Did you guys attempt to make any submission changes or change the physics? Like, hey, 14 could use this again, or hey, let's try and put this in, or was it kind of like we're on the last year of this, let's get something out and?
Yeah, I don't remember any discussions about that. About specifically anything dealing with the physics or the submission system. The submission system in 14 was the breaking point, right?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we had any. We didn't have any new conversations about revamping these submissions again.
From the hour and a half plus that we've talked so far, it sounds like you guys were really busy though throughout with adding all the stuff for matches, modes, getting everything taken care of. And lastly, he asked, whose idea was it to change the grapple holds in the next generation of consoles? Because I missed the front face lock, wrist lock, waist lock, side head lock, and the ability to change to a different hold area before doing the move. It felt like wrestling instead of just doing moves.
Well, that was me. I was the one that, re-implemented the 4 positions, the side headlock, wrist lock. We added that back in 2010. I'm also responsible for removing them and just having the front face lock in 2015. So, sorry.
Any particular reason why it happened though, or?
I mean, we can get to it in 15, but I mean, honestly, it basically went down to when we added the chain wrestling. Because the thing is, like, the wrist lock and the side headlock, those are holds that you see during the chaining part of a match. You never go, once you get, a third of the way through a match, the guys and gals, they're not really using these chain grapples, so to speak. They kind of elevate their moveset to just doing moves more freely. And that was our mindset. That was my mindset behind that change, which is why we put in 2015, the chain wrestling, which I hear a lot of people probably didn't like that. That was also one of my ideas. But once you got through the chaining, you then would just start going through your arsenal of moves, whether they medium grapples or strong grapples. And we kept the front face lock in there because that's like a general hold that is then used to drag an opponent, to set up tag maneuvers, and that sort of stuff. Plus, gives players an additional, intermediate hold state to do other moves. So,
Bryan, I gotta say that THQ left their stamp going out on this game. I think it's a tremendous game. It's the last one that I honestly loved and enjoyed. You had the Shield make their debut. Just so many great things you think about during this time period. Daniel Bryan's run that they were trying to screw him out of. CM Punk getting ready to leave the company. It just brings fond memories back of probably when you last were enjoying things with WWE. You thought some people were going to get some shine. Like we said, Sandow, Cody Rhodes, things were looking on the up and up. And then we'll get into 15, but you and your THQ family did an excellent job with this.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I liked this game when it came out. I was very, happy and proud to have had my name attached to it. And I will say, over time, I really this thing is, I've grown to like it even more, hindsight being what it is. So I appreciate those comments. And for everybody out there who's watching or, maybe not even watching, if you enjoyed this game, I'm really glad that you dug it. Because I know myself, Jody, Corey, we all were very proud of what we did here. Ukes, I think this was a good one. This was a good one to go out with the whole THQ, our last Swamp Song.
Sick, we are saving that for later. He asked if you ever gave your thoughts. We're gonna that might be, we'll see. Next week's gonna kind of be a meshed up one. We'll talk about that at the end though, Sick. But speaking of family, I'm family, right? Help your brother out. This is the Manscaped ad time. You know what time it is. You guys need that lawnmower 3.0. You've been sitting in the house for a couple weeks. Sometimes you get a little itchy and scratchy. Might be time to get to clipping, as I like to say. So make sure you guys go to manscaped.com. Put in the promo code EPW Show. Let Brother Kush save you 20% on all of your Manscaped needs. You guys can get some free shipping with it as well. You guys will love it. And not only do they have the Lawnmower 3.0, we've got ball deodorant. You need that. You put deodorant under your armpits. The balls stink, fellas. Help it out. The ladies appreciate it greatly. And don't forget, we also have some nice ball toner as well. They've got some nice, sweet leather bags that you guys get with it. It comes in great packaging. These things are made to handle. They are well maintained. And ladies, you can use it too. You got to impress the fellas. I get it. So make sure that you guys are trimmed, clipped, and ready to win. Not only will I thank you if you guys purchase it, but your balls will thank you too.
Are you looking for the newest and hottest in the world of pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 6,000 hours of the best events from over 150 of your favorite promotions from 20 different countries around the globe. Brands like Progress Wrestling, Evolve Wrestling, Combat Zone, Defy, PCW Ultra, PWX, Over the Top, Shine, and hundreds of others with fresh content added every day for only $5.99 per month. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
Everything Pro Wrestling, it's your boys from the Everything College Basketball Podcast and Facebook group. I'm Josh Burton, letting you all know that if you like the college game, that there's only one spot to come find all you need to know.
Yep, Josh, Peyton, and myself, Tyler. We are the three voices of ECB podcast and Facebook group. Peyton, tell them where they can find us and listen to us at.
Well, Tyler, you can find us on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and all other podcast hosting sites. Also, go join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups like everything college basketball. So if you want everything you need to know about the collegiate game or have a passion for it, there's only one spot that you need to check out on a weekly basis or a daily basis with the Facebook group. That's everything college basketball. Now let's get back to Conrad informing you on everything pro wrestling and the workings around it.
Brother.
Boom. Good transition.
Good read, brother. Good read.
Thank you.
Brother Kush.
Brother Kush. 2K15. Holy shit. I do not want to talk about this game. Where do I begin with this? With this game, man.
Yeah, I'll just go out. Look, I know that this game isn't looked back fondly. I mean, now or at the time. And as like taking my part in its development out of it and just looking at it from a fan's point of view, I get it. But that being said, like I'm very proud of this game. And I know that comes primarily from just a personal standpoint, of which I'm sure we'll get into. But, you know, I know people, they talk shit about this game, at least, you know, the Xbox One, PS4 version. But if you thought 2K20 was bad, you know, like that was a game that had, I'll just say it, like there was no reason for 2K20 to be as bad as it was. This one, I know it was feature light, but I think it is a testament to Yuke's. It is a testament to the designers that were there at 2K, all of us freshly transplanted THQ people, as well as, well, no, I won't. Freshly transplanted THQ people, that we were even able to make this game even a fucking reality. And I'll just leave with that. But like I said, for me, I look at this game and I'm proud of it. But I understand how fans don't like this at all. But yeah.
Brian, we'll get into part of that too. But let's talk about the pre-order first. Sting. I absolutely love the commercial for Sting. I think a lot of people guessed that he was going to be the pre-order bonus, but the commercial told a great story. And here's the thing with 2K15. It wasn't that 2K15 did like the right things as far as the hype goes. I just think it failed to deliver what you expected because 2K took over. I don't know how... Don't take this the wrong way, Brian, but when I saw THQ, I saw it as a bunch of hardworking dudes who didn't have the big time money. You know what I mean? When I saw 2K, yeah. I was like, oh, okay, they got bread. They can do something with this. You could really put some money into this now if you want to, right? And it just didn't feel that way. You can't replace passion with money is what I learned from this transition. Like, I didn't know who from THQ was retained at all. When they had that IGN video series with the developers, bro, I marked out when I saw you. I was like, hell yeah, my boy Brian's on the game. Damn right. They better be using his ideas. And I just remember being happy seeing that. But then I was like, well, where's Corey? Where's, you know, all your favorites? You're like, what happened to all these dudes who, like, made the game that I loved? And it wasn't, I didn't feel that same passion. And that's no disrespect to Mark Little, Bryce Yang. They've been very nice when I asked them questions too, but it's just, you can feel it. You can see it. Bryce Yang, who's a really good friend of mine, he's he's one of us. Like, he's a former THQ guy. And honestly, like, if you guys have loved these commercials, like with 2K14 with Ultimate Warrior going to the office, wrecking shit, like that's all Bryce. Like he's in charge of the marketing. He was in charge of marketing at THQ, and he was one of the guys that was brought aboard to stay on the project and went to 2K. So Bryce is good at what he does, but he has nothing to do with the creative side of the game in terms of the actual product. He just knows how to sell it. Yeah, and he's great. And Brian, I'm just talking about people answering questions, like specifically, like if you go on, I used to be the YouTube headhunter, like, let me see, there's a video in Germany where maybe they said something they weren't supposed to say. All right,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
Bryan.
Okay.
That's who I'm looking for. All right, come on, Bryce. Give me something here. And it wasn't that Bryce was bad. Bryce was just a nice, normal dude. But with you, Bryan Williams would get up there, and I would see the smile. Like, don't you dare ask me about no new superstar being in. Don't you? And you'd be right on camera like, I knew you were going to do this. I knew you were going to pull this. No comment or whatever. You know, you could just feel the passion from you, though, that, like, Bryan loved this game, and there was something from it. Mark said all the right things. Like, I love Jinx. Jinx is someone, I can see the passion on him, too, though. Like, there was something about Jinx that I resonated with, and I'm like, you know what? I like this dude. The problem with 2K was they never followed up on a lot of stuff that they started too. Like, this is the producer series. Quiet. And I'm like, yo, what happened to the producer series you guys were doing? Nobody says anything. The community manager's not interacting like they were. I know we got, I don't know if Aubrey stayed on for this portion or if it went back to Marcus by then. But it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same. You could just feel it.
It was not the same. So, just quick backstory. Real quick, I'll do my best to keep this tidy. So, it was the end of October 2013. I had just gotten back from Europe because I was doing this press tour, like doing demos and showing the game out to the press. I get back to our office. At this point in time, we were out of the TSU building. 2K put us in the QA building, which was in Northridge, California, which is where I lived. So it was like walking distance from my apartment, which was nice. So I come back from this trip. I go to the office, and I remember Corey telling me, he was like, "Hey, welcome back. Hey, 2K, they're gonna come. They've got some big meeting. So I know you're probably jet lagged and tired, but really need you to be here on time because I always kind of showed up whenever the fuck I wanted to." And so I was like, "Yeah, no problem, no doubt." So finish the day, go home, wake up early, get to the office by 9. And I'm looking around, and I'm like, I see Jody, designer of 30 years, WrestleMania. I see some other coworkers, audio guys. Hey, what up? And I'm looking around. I'm like, man, this motherfucker Corey told me to get here early, and he's not even here. And then I'm like, speaking of Corey, like, where's Frank? Where's Keith? Keith was everybody's boss. I'm like, where are all these guys? And so I sit down at my desk, and I see these other people in the office who I'd never seen before, so I just assumed that, it must be the 2K folks. And so just waiting, just surfing the internet, whatever. I'm there for about 20 minutes, and then I see Jody get up, and some other of my coworkers are being escorted in some direction, so I get up and I go with them, and I'm told to go back to my seat. It's like, oh no, Bryan, you stay right there. We'll come get you later. And I'm like, oh, okay. So sit back down, and then I get called along with some other coworkers to go into another room. Get into that room, and the head honcho from 2K, he basically just tells us, like, look, anyone who's not in this room has been let go today. Anyone in this room, we'd like to keep on the team moving forward. In order to do that, you're gonna have to relocate to Northern California, to Novato. Corey wasn't in that room. Frank wasn't in that room. Basically, all the upper management was let go. It sucked because I didn't get a chance to say goodbye personally, but that was the situation. I had stopped smoking for about 7 months, and I was tripping fucking balls. And I went outside, saw my coworker who was in the room with me, my homeboy Tony, and I was like, "Dude, give me a smoke." And I had a cigarette, and I sat there just like in shock a little bit. I mean, we all kind of figured that there were going to be changes, of course, like anytime a company comes in. But for it to happen like that and as sudden as it was, it definitely threw me off a bit. We were told that we'd be given time. I think like a week or two's time to kind of figure out if we wanted to make the move or not. If not, then that's fine. You'll be given a severance and yada, yada, yada. Me being me, I was like, well, this is what I do. I mean, I was going to go. So I did. I signed. It sounded like a really cool opportunity to go to 2K because I felt like you. As much as I love THQ, fond memories, I mean, they never really gave us the love monetarily for the game that I felt that 2K would give us. So I was like, yeah, I've always wanted to go to live in Northern California. So signed the papers. My girls signed the papers as well. And the day after Thanksgiving 2013, we drove up to NorCal. They put us up in a temporary housing for a bit till we can find a place to live, which is very nice of them. And we started. So that is why. And Aubrey was, I think I mentioned it before, Aubrey was one of the guys that was in the keep room. He just decided not to leave. I mean, he wasn't too keen on some of the people that he'd be working with over there. So he was like, nah, I'm good. So he decided to just stay. But I made the move up there. Most of us did. You know, the people that were responsible for this game, for 2K15, were all THQ people, with the addition of, you know, Lionel, who I fucking absolutely love. And like you said, you mentioned Mark's name. You know, he was our new boss. But beyond that, like, that was it. Like, it was the old THQ folks getting this thing done. And so we started. And the thing is that we had been, before the releases happened, we had been in meetings with Yuke trying to figure out, okay, well, what is this experience going to be gameplay wise? Like, what changes are we going to make going to Xbox One? Everything was in a state of flux. Nothing had been decided. Ukes were coming up with some pretty kind of wacky ideas that really weren't hitting our expectations. So it had basically had just been a series of back and forth conversations with neither side really agreeing one way or the other. And so, yeah, so by the time that we all, you know, made the move up north and got situated and started working there at 2K and from the 2K office, like, the game, it still hadn't been decided. And so, like I said, this was the end of 2013, November. By the time it got to, I would say mid-March or the end of March, we've been there for a while, having meetings, going to mocap like damn near every other week because they owned the mocap studio, which was nice. It was cool that, be able to mocap, a lot more freely because they owned it. But we were going in kind of just mocapping blind because we hadn't really formulated any sort of concrete direction of the game. And I was directing these shoots, and it was kind of a little frustrating because it was like, well, what is this going to be used for? I kind of felt like we're mocapping to mocap. Although I will say a lot of those motions, definitely ended up being used. But it got to a point like in, mid-March where I was like, look, I went to, the boss and I was like, hey, and the other designer who was working on gameplay with me, I was like, hey, we need to get in a room and really kind of figure out what we're doing. Like, because at this point in time, Conrad, bear with you, like in all my years working at THQ, we had never gotten to this point in the project's life cycle where we didn't have gameplay spec'd out and designed or the feature set outside of just, the basics, which was like the showcase. And I was put in charge of showcase this year because Jody got let go. So I took showcase over, and it was like, look, like, I can't design this if I don't know how ultimately the game's going to function and behave. So I was the one that was kind of galvanizing and trying to force everybody into the room to kind of get this thing together because I had ideas, they had ideas, and we finally got the ball rolling. And I put together the design doc for, again, the chain wrestling, and then just the gameplay itself. How you got your medium grapples, your strong grapples, the front face lock. We talked about that a little bit before. The reasons why we don't have the wrist locks and all that, and as the match goes on, was because you just don't see that in wrestling because we were all the bent was to be as kind of sim-like as possible. So that was something for me. Like it was weird. Like I don't think I acclimated myself to my new surroundings as well as some of the other people. I just never really felt comfortable there, and yeah, it was just weird. Of course I missed, Corey and everybody like that, but it was just a weird way of doing things because the management at 2K, at least I shouldn't say 2K, on the team, was so vastly different from what I was used to working, underneath, Keith and Corey and all that, where there was just a very, like, everybody, like, we knew how everything was ran. Like, if you needed something from WWE, Frank. If you needed to run by something creatively, Corey. If you needed something that involved, you know, budgets or just the grand scheme of things, you go to the big boss, Keith. Like there was just a way of doing business where everybody knew what they needed to do to get something done. And at 2K, and at first I thought it was kind of cool. It was very nebulous and very just kind of free flowing and just like there didn't seem to be much structure. And it was weird to work in that environment after a while when I'm seeing it's like, man, like we're meeting with Yuke, we're mocapping, but we're not coming to any decisions on things. It just got really, really it was just different. I'm sorry, I've been rambling for a lot.
No. I think that was an important. Listen, bro. If you guys don't know, me and Bryan have talked about this before, so I kind of know what he's going to say already for a lot of this. But I think it's important that the people hear it and understand what you were going through at that time. I think you explained it very well. Would you say that it felt like there were too many chiefs?
No, honestly. I would say that there weren't enough. And again, it goes to the looseness of the organization. And like I said, like at first you get there and it's kind of cool because it's like, wow, you know, you kind of feel that you have all this, you know, free space to move and roam. But, you know, again, structurally, like when something needed to be actually like decided on and moved forward with, that's kind of what I felt was missing, you know, because like, and maybe that was just because they were new to the whole thing of, you know, I mean, they were new to working on the wrestling game, but, you know, with THQ, like we all knew, you know, you get to a certain, you know, period of time in development, like we should be here by now, you know, like in the olden days, when we're in like mid-March, you know, April, we're getting early builds of the game, and we hadn't gotten to that point yet.
So I mean, there were no green discs at this point.
We had some builds, but they were things things that, you know, Yuke were kind of just toying around with that they were sending us that again we really weren't too excited about. So it was just kind of weird. It was like, man, we need to figure out how this damn thing is gonna play.
And if you guys don't know, green discs are like the game they're playing before it's officially released. So I used to be friends with Marcus on PlayStation, and I would see like Marcus playing. I'm like, hold up, bro, how do you got? You never mind that I'm testing something out. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, by the time we were with Xbox One and PS4, like it was pretty much standard to just like forego disc and just, you know, we just would download the build straight to our PCs and just, you know, check them that way, which was a lot easier.
Listen,
better for the environment too, probably.
Let me tell you this about this game. I bought this game digitally, I believe. Now, I cannot tell you. I don't know who put this together or how. Maybe they didn't zip file this bad boy or whatever. I had my room looking like Spider-Man was up in here with so many cords, direct lines. I'm like, dude, why is this game taking so long to download? I got good internet. The game's file size was gigantic, bro. Like that's the best way I could put it. Gigantic file size, bro. I was there it felt like it took me a day. Like I remember, I think I went to work and I came back and I think that's how it had to download. Like I was like, damn, dude, I had to go to work for 8 hours and come home and it was just finishing. Like it took that long. So
that doesn't surprise me. These were pretty burly games.
Yeah,
they still are.
Yeah, I'm afraid that I was gonna try and go back and download it, but I was like, nah, brother, I cannot have my system tied up that long. I barely have time to play now, so I was like, I can't do that. I'm laughing at a lot of the things that I'm seeing for this already. Mark Goldman coming in with a question already. He said, I was at the Gamescom press demonstration where the businesses were, and I marked out when they had Punk, and I had to sign an NDA, though. How did you guys get Punk in the showcase? So were you responsible for that? Like,
so the showcase, like I said, I mentioned it in that long-ass diatribe I just gave. So Jody was let go, and he was our story mode, you know, single-player mode designer. And with him not being there, like, you know, I volunteered to step in to take over his responsibilities. So, you know, that mode was being worked on by Jody and our other coworker, Shane, who was in charge of the models and the arena environments. He basically was the one, he led a team that, you know, created a lot of the cutscenes and entrances for the game. It was his team working, like they would split the workload between him and his staff and the guys at Yuke's in Yokohama. So with Jody being gone, I worked with Shane, and Shane he was a cool cat. I like Shane a lot. He had been around for a while too, from THQ. So when I got on it, like, they had already decided on the showcase, and it wasn't called Showcase yet, but they had already decided on the chapters and the stories they were going to focus on, the John Cena, CM Punk, and the Triple H, Shawn Michaels. We also had a third one that when I joined, we were actively working on, which was a Goldberg one. That ultimately didn't make the cut because we didn't get the approval from WWE. So we just focused on the two that were going to be on disc, which were, CM Punk and Cena, and HBK and Triple H. So, a lot of the work had already been done. Not as far as like the objectives. Like, I designed all the objectives, but I had to design the objectives based around like all the mocap. Not all the mocap, but I would say a good half of the mocap had already been captured for the cutscenes, the quick time events, and all that. And the rest of them had already been spec'd out. Between Shane and his team and working with Jody, like, they spec'd out these are the scenes and moments we're gonna have for the mode. So that became one of my responsibilities as well. In addition to gameplay, and in addition to, I was responsible for, because 2K wanted us to create a special mode for old gen, and they wanted the designers to come up with ideas and pitch them, and I came up with Who Got Next, Who Got NXT, and they decided to go with my idea. So I designed that, and I was responsible for that. So between Who Got NXT, gameplay, showcase, and then I was also the lead motion capture director. And at this point, I mentioned before where everybody who owned their particular areas of the game would mocap their shit. With 15, I became the director for everything. I motion captured. I directed the cutscenes for Showcase, all the in-game animations, universe cutscenes. I was responsible for directing all that stuff, which was cool because I still had my boys coming in. Sanjay, Micah, Jay, Lethal, Tracy, like, still using the same crew, which was nice. Trent, Chris Hero. So it was cool to have to still be able to see them.
Neville showed up too, right? Neville and Cesaro. I think I remember seeing some promo stuff for this, like, showing off some of the new moves that were going to be in the game.
They did, and that was for a making of, like, behind the scenes. I think it was the thing you mentioned before. They did this behind the scenes making of WWE 2K15. So yeah, I was directing Paul Heyman and Cesaro and Sami Zayn, and yeah, Neville was there again. So I directed him. I directed Neville back to back. That was hard because, well, I don't know. I don't want to. I'll get there later. But, like, if you have any other questions before I get to.
Yeah, let me go through some of this. We knew Paige was included in the season pass. Little way to add some oomph for people to get that season pass, because Paige was hot shit back then at that time.
I pushed for her strong. Like, a lot of the people that within 2K, they didn't know who she was, but I was like, no, this Paige, like, because the NXT was really heating up at this point. And I was like, no, we got to get Paige in some kind of way. Like, I was really actively pushing for it for like a month and a half. And then I find out that they were going to make her. I thought it was a pre-order bonus, but it was some kind of bonus.
Bryan, this is a personal one for me. Did you guys ever talk to, like, the NBA 2K team or BioShock team about how they were managed? Like, were the managements different across the games too? Like, was it just like WWE's its own free-for-all, NBA 2K? Because NBA 2K seems pretty structured, unless I'm just misinterpreting it the wrong way as a fan.
Brother, I worked in that building, with the NBA team. I never interacted with them outside of one instance, but that wasn't even work related. So I have no idea how that team functioned, or like, when I was there, they were in the midst of doing Mafia 3. Everybody was like its own thing. Like, teams didn't really interact. Not when I say they didn't interact, I mean, of course, you talk to people, but it wasn't like, I ever was around to see how the Mafia team was being run or the NBA guys were being run. You know, if I see people that I know in like the comment space getting coffee or whatever, you know, we chop it up. But, you know, I don't know if it was a similar thing. I mean, because I felt the same way. Because, I mean, just seeing how we were run and then seeing, I mean, the results of what the NBA team was doing. I mean, I don't know.
Because I used to listen to a podcast at the time with Czar, Scott OG. Like, these guys played college basketball or in Europe and stuff, and it just seems completely different from what I would hear from people who did the WWE games. You know?
Yeah, I'm sure it was. I mean, we were the new kids on the block, you know?
Yeah, and they seemed like they had no interaction with you and vice versa. So I don't know. I just think that's awfully weird. And the Goldberg thing real quick before I get to fan questions in the chat. I see you guys talking in there. Goldberg, what was this going to be based on his WCW career overall, just WWE?
It was going to be based on his WCW career, you know, capturing, you know, his rise. It would start with his first appearance on Nitro, and basically we spec'd it out. I didn't spec it out. I mean, you know, Jody and Shane did, but basically, you know, all the way up until his debut in the WWE in, what was that, 2003?
Yeah.
That he showed up? Yeah. So it was going to cover the streak, his winning streak. You know, we were going to have like Raven in there and like Hugh Morris. Like we had all these characters that, you know,
Hugh Morris was in too, in career mode. Bill DeMott was there as one of the trainers, I believe.
No, we had that was Tenside. That was Matt Bloom.
Oh, never mind. This must have been around the time of the Jelly Donut incident. Google it, kids. Good times. Yeah, just dang, dude. That would have been really cool to have in now. Once you said that, I was just like, my heart kind of sank. Like, damn, we could have had that.
No, it was good. I mean, I was excited to work on it. You know,
Let's start with, I see some people wrote, oh, here we go. This is what I've been waiting for. Let's start with my brother, because I'm way far up in the chat here now. He said he's bringing up the John Cena Wiz Khalifa stuff. You were fooled, Cam. He said the John Cena songs that weren't in the game, but they were still promoted. What's up with that? Like, why did you promote? Like, they promoted that John Cena and Wiz Khalifa curated the tracks together, but then they tried to sell you songs from the game separately, and people were like, what the hell is this, bro? Put them in the game.
I remember that. Yeah, that was weird. I don't know why we did that.
That might have been a WWE business move, because then Wiz Khalifa, didn't he appear on Raw? Like, it was, I don't know, that was weird.
Yeah, I do remember something about that where it was like, it was like separate. It was like in support of the game, but not in the game.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I was like, yeah, that's a weird.
Go to Spotify to get a sample of it and then buy the track on Apple Music or something. It was something wild like that.
Yeah, when it comes to you know, licensed, you know, music and all that kind of stuff, and like those decisions, like those are decisions that are made outside of the design team. So that would be a Bryce question. I can reach out to him just to, you know, get an answer.
Yeah, that was kind of trash. That was weird. Six said, I knew once I seen Cena on the cover of this game, it was going to be a bad year for me with this game. Terrible, dog, but true. Mark Goldman said, I love 2K15. Still thankful to this day that it came out for PC and introduced me to modding. Also, thanks to 2K15, we can still use the 2K15 Punk model in 2K19. So, see, there's positives to this.
Nice.
Let me see if we get any other questions here. AR just asked, was there ever talk of bringing back a mode like Defeat the Streak after 2K14? Maybe a Defeat the Beast mode with Brock Lesnar could have been something cool that you guys could have done in the future. Just curious.
I did, actually. Just not for the Xbox or PS4. Xbox One or PS4. Like, I try, you know, I kind of, it's cheesy, but I was trying to kind of repeat myself with the streak. And in the who got next mode for 360 and PS3, you know, we had a sub mode where it was called the Proving Ground match. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but it was essentially the same type of match with the streak, except instead of going up against the Undertaker, you were going up against John Cena. It didn't have like the bells and whistles, like the blackout, the lights on, lights out, and like the Hell's Gate, the sudden Hell's Gate, and all that kind of stuff. But you were going up against like a super Cena. And I came up with that idea like during mid-production. It was the SmackDown after WrestleMania 30, and Cena was on the episode, and he cut this promo, basically calling out a lot of the the cats from NXT, saying basically, you know, if you want to prove yourself in WWE, like, you know, it kind of goes through me. So I saw him say that, and I came up with the idea for the Proving Ground match. So so it's similar to the Streak. It's not the same thing, but if you're looking for a challenge, trying to beat Cena in that match is a ordeal, but doable.
He probably kicks out of concrete DDT, folks. So just watch yourselves.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's Cena. Concrete's like a sponge to Cena.
AR also asked, do you think WWE 2K15 would have been sold? Or let me rephrase this. Okay, do you think WWE 2K15 would have sold better if it looked the way 2K14 did, but had 2K14 gameplay? Because 2K15 was a beaut. I mean, I have that in here in my notes. Like graphically, I thought this thing was a beauty.
Yeah,
that was the best looking wrestling game I think I've ever seen. I'm putting it up there. One of the best looking wrestling games from the images.
Yeah, our whole thing when it came to the Xbox One, seeing, you know, with this being the first, like we really wanted to just do something different, and that goes for the visuals. I mean, obviously you can kind of tell by the time we get to 15. You know, we had done enough massaging over the years with WWE to kind of get their permission to allowing us to be more accurate in the depiction of all the character models, which is one of the key reasons why the wrestlers looked as lifelike as they did when you compare it to how they looked in 14. Which again, I thought the models looked great in 14, but it was definitely a stylized approach. Hyper realistic versus with 2K15, we decided to go in the photorealistic. And honestly, yeah, as far as like the gameplay, you know, had we just kept that, you know, I've never been asked that before. That's a really good question. It probably, you know, hindsight being what it is, it probably would have been the best route to take. It would have been a safer route to take. I know that much. But I just remember at the time, just us wanting to just do something different.
I know people hated the downtime a lot. Was a big complaint I noticed going back playing through these.
I did too. I was really pissed off about the downtime, especially when it comes to kicking out. I didn't like how I'd kick out, but yet and still I'd still remain on the ground for excuse me, for what felt like longer than should have been, because it just allowed the attacker to just pin me again. It's like, hey man, that's. And I remember going back and forth with the guys at Yuke's about that. I wasn't too cool about that. But by the time it got to that point, like things in my life had just kind of gone a certain way where, I just kind of was too late back to the party, as it were.
Right. I get it, dude. 100% understand that. Chris Morgan asks, what does Bryan think of the reversal system? More so the reversal limit that got put on eventually. It definitely has cons. Would love to know his thoughts. This is a great stream, and I just subscribed. Well, thank you, Chris Morgan.
Yeah, thanks.
I appreciate you subscribing, brother.
Appreciate it. I like the limited reversal slots. I thought they were a fine addition. At the same time, I also like playing without them. You know, I'm glad that option still remained in 19. I'd assume it's still in 20 as well. But no, I thought it was a novel concept, and I think that idea came from the designers at Yuke's. My boy Yamamori-san. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was his idea. But yeah, I liked it. I thought it added a nice kind of little bit of strategy to how you proceed, as far as like, you know, which moves you're willing to kind of eat versus the ones that, you know, kind of saving them for the moves and the moments that are more impactful than, say, a stomp or something like that. So I thought it was a good addition.
Yeah. Let me see here. Sick then asks, how many true wrestling fans were actually with 2K at the time, outside of you and maybe a few others? I mean, did you feel the passion from that crew while making 15? Were there lots of wrestling fans?
No, but that's also true of the team that did well. Because again, you know, the people, and again, I'm still talking about 2K15. These are all the same people that I worked with on 13 and 14, some 12. So it wasn't like, they weren't the biggest fans. By the time, like once Justin and Dan left the project, I ended up being, I was a wrestling nerd on the team. Jody, the guy who did 30 years WrestleMania, he was probably second to me in terms of his wrestling fandom. And Marcus Stevenson was a big wrestling fan, but by this point, like he was gone. He wasn't a part of 15. He showed up at one point because he was thinking about becoming the community manager, but
he was for a little bit.
For a little bit, yeah.
I think
But
the
it
problem
was on an
moving.
interim basis. I remember talking to him when I came back, and he told me that, yeah, he's like, he took it. He's like, yeah, I'm doing it just, for the meantime. They kind of want to bring me in full time, but I'm not sure if I want to do it. But Marcus was a big fan. But in terms of like the design team, it was, not to say that no one, like people I work with didn't like wrestling. They just weren't as into it as me. Like, I don't think there was anybody on the team that was going home and playing the game for fun.
But honestly, I feel like that's a requirement though. Like I would want people who are wrestling nerds. Like when I come into the office, I better hear, "Yo, bro, I read on whatever Meltzer just said this last night on his podcast." Like that's what I would want to hear from my people, not oh man, there was a great baseball game on last night. And Braun Strowman better have been there too. Let's get to work. Like I want that in the wrestling games. And
to be fair, I hate to cut you off. To be fair, towards the end of my time at 2K, it was either right as we were submitting 15 or maybe beginning pre-production of 16. But we did hire a game design intern, this cat named Dino. And Dino was cool as hell because he was like me. He came from QA, got this job to work on the wrestling project. And he was a super fan like me. So so towards the end of my time, Dino was there. So I would say I would go to his place. We watched pay-per-views together. So he was a hardcore fan as well.
Dope. And Six said it sounds like 2K was too busy planning for NBA to think of any original ideas for WWE.
Just different teams. You can't compare different teams. No one on NBA knew what we were doing.
I think he's taking it as 2K interactive. He feels the focus was too much on like the GTAs and the NBAs because it's different. THQ, WWE, I felt like was their cash cow. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, it was. But I will say, like whatever feelings I have about my time at 2K, I will say at least the year that I was there, I never got a sense that they weren't putting their money where their mouth was. Like that was never a thing. I don't want to sit here and say that they were not favoring us because of what NBA was doing. NBA was doing like that NBA at this point was, that was the basketball franchise. Like there was no game coming in was going to take any shine away from them. So 2K, we had good resources. We did. That wasn't an issue in terms of comparing that to THQ. If anything, we had limited resources at THQ, and again, which I think is a testament to everybody who worked on those projects, that we were able to get as much out of those games year over year with less money. So when it came to 2K, no, money was never really a problem. They didn't treat us as if we were less than any other project there. Of my feelings, I never got that feeling.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe it just feels like they're third on the pecking scale, so maybe they didn't. I don't know.
Well, that might be how it is now. But I'm saying, like when I was there, when we first got there, that was not how it felt.
The WWE license is a big title. I'm sure a lot of people want it. Like I always hear people say, like, "Oh, I wish EA had it," and I'm like, I don't know. I'm always the person who like, let me remind you of history. Backstage Assault. Like, I don't ever want to hear EA Sports get another wrestling game. I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but I would have fired you if you came into my office with that. Like, you really brought me this? Like, come on, bro. No rings?
Yeah, all fairness to them. At TSU, we also did put out Crush Hour, which was no rose either.
But it was a side thing, bro. That's different than, like, that was your main game. Like, buy Backstage Assault. let's not. Like, I played that because someone rented it from Blockbuster back in the day, and that was just a bad idea. So I'm not gonna completely poo-poo on 2K. I see people in the chat talking about Terminator, asking if we'll see a crossover with He-Man and Skeletor in the WWE games. Maybe one day, Thomas, we'll see that. Sick, reminiscing when I used to get pissed about the reversal limits, I think. Yeah, reversal limits I'm so 50-50 on, bro, because when I used to play and I would hear people, I wish I had a controller near me right now, you hear the tick, 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 tick. I'm like, dude, you're garbage, bro. I haven't even done a move yet and you're pressing the button. Like, relax on the button, bro. Like, they weren't even timing. They were just pressing it at any given moment to keep those reversal stock limits. So at first I was like, okay, cool, they're putting these in. And then afterwards I kind of felt like, I gotta sit here and get my ass kicked now on purpose. Like, I'm just sitting there, I'm like, oh, I can't reverse stomps. And then when you do reverse the stomp, you get up into a running move every time. And I'm like, this was so badly designed. Why did they do this?
I thought, the whole stomp thing. Like, again, I like the idea. I do think there should have been, like, maybe more forethought put into what those stocks actually reverse. Because to lose a full, reversal meter because you're trying to evade a ground stomp, it didn't seem like the value was like, it's like I'm spending $1,000 for a cup of coffee at 7-Eleven. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude,
it's
online, that was the way to go, though. Like, if you wanted to beat someone, that's how you saw how smart they were. You would stomp. And And, dude, I just hate getting my ass kicked in the games because it's always been played like a fighting game. So you're like, dude, I'm not going to sit here and let you beat me up. You would reverse, and then you would just keep getting hit with moves, or you would get spammed with the baseball bat. Oh, that was another, like, bad thing towards the end. I was like, oh, come on, man. Who designed this, and how do you not know about this yet?
Like I said, I mean, it's always good. I was playing 19 over the weekend, and like I turned them off as soon as I booted it up. Because like sometimes I'm in the mood for it, but then maybe just 'cause I've been playing these older games recently, especially 14. I was like, yeah, I don't want to deal with not being able to reverse, so I turned that shit off.
So would you like that in future wrestling games? Would you think, like, is reversal limits the way to go, or are you done with it? Or are you like, nah, man, I wouldn't want reversals in? Well, I think it'd be better if you made them harder.
I wouldn't want to do it in anything that we do moving forward. For a couple of reasons. Primarily because, WWE did it, the most recent, and now, talking to you and everything like that, I had my own, feelings about it. No, I wouldn't want to do what we did before. It's like, let's do something different.
Yeah, man. And I was always sad we never got that All-Stars reversal scheme too, like the reversal into reversals.
Yeah,
like
that's another thing. Yeah.
I thought that would have been dope. Flood wanted to know, do you guys ever pick who the cover guy of the game is?
That's a marketing decision. I didn't mention it. It's funny. I meant to talk about this when we did WWE 13. Or maybe I did mention about CM Punk being on the cover. Mm-hmm. And how the WWE fought tooth and nail to not have him be on the cover. Did I mention that?
No. Oh, yes.
Yeah, the reason that CM Punk was on the cover was because it was that's whoever's on the cover, that's marketing through and through. Like, design team doesn't have anything to do with that. Like, they'll sometimes give us, mock-ups of layouts and stuff like that, but in terms of the actual wrestler who's on the cover, or wrestlers, that's a marketing WWE thing. So when we were doing W13, like Bryce and the rest of the marketing guys, like, they fought tooth and nail to have CM Punk on there, and it was like one of the few times where we were actually able to talk them down into our position. But that wasn't something they wanted. They really didn't want to have him on there. But they eventually, the marketing presented an argument that was too compelling, so they were like, all right, fine, if you want him, you can have him. But he was definitely not their first choice.
Okay, sorry, my boss just texted me something super weird.
Oh, no worries.
I don't know if he's trying to make it a casual day or if he's setting something up for me. This is live, folks. This is live. I'm just gonna ask why. I don't care.
Yeah.
He should be watching this, actually. So, anywho, the Rob says this episode's been fire. I'm just gonna stick with the fan questions right now because honestly, we could go through this and we could talk about how match type shrunk Bryan already
Yeah.
kind of explained why, dude. Like, you know what happened. The roster was that it just wasn't planned all the way through. So I'm just going to continue with these questions because I'm sure we're going to hit on a lot of this stuff in here. Mark Goldman said 2K15 did have Bill DeMott in it, and 2K16 added Tensai or Coach Bloom. I still have DeMott's model in 2K19 as a mod. My man.
Okay.
I knew Bill DeMott
Yeah.
made it in one game. I remember the drill with the jelly donuts in my career. Had you running around butt naked.
I stand corrected. I stand corrected.
Let's see here. Mark says, "Is this the last part of the series? If so, no." I guess we can elaborate on this now. My plan is, so next week Bryan is going to come back, and the plan right now is to do like 16, 17, 18, 19, and we're just going to kind of mesh it all together. This will be like Bryan's time at Yuke's then, and we'll just talk about that. And if you guys got questions about those games, we'll let them come in rapid fire. And I'm just going to, like I said, to me, this is more so Bryan's like thing. Like, I want Bryan to get whatever he's got out there. And I think he's educating a lot of fans because a lot of people, the feedback I've been getting has been great on these. And a lot of people are loving the series. Like, even messages in my DMs on Twitter, I've gotten a lot of people to follow me and stuff from it. So I appreciate you guys for doing that. But follow Bryan too. All of his stuff is
if you
in
want
here.
to. No pressure.
Let's see here. Mark Goldman says, one thing that came to mind, it's a super small detail, but I love that when doing the Orton wake up taunt with the back to the opponent, Orton would do that twist while he
Oh yeah, when he dropped to the ground.
Let's see here. 6 said, I always thought limiting reversals was a way to keep players from spamming the reversal buttons. I agree, Sick. I think they should have just made it harder though, eventually. That's what, short term, I thought the limiting reversals was a good idea, but then after I was like, you know what? They should have just made this harder for people. Maybe, like I said, bring back the L2 button or show your skill. Like, is he going to strike me? Is he going to grapple me? Like, just don't spam R2, bro.
Yeah. There's a better way to implement that. Like, I mean, one idea, you could have just said, because that was when they added like mid-move reversals, which was one of the last things that I worked on, actually, putting those situations together. But like, if you wanted to introduce those slots, you could say, look, these slots are they limit the ability for you to do a mid-move reversal, where it's like, okay, I want to save these just in case I get into a situation where I might actually need to do this versus, because again, my biggest problem with the reversal slots were just, I don't want to have to waste one off of some ticky-tack attack like a stomp. Like, you're not going to beat me by stomping me to death. So, it shouldn't cost a full slot. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of...
And Bryan, I always felt that's where, like, the online community was ignored. Like, I could tell you the spammy things that you need to take out instantly. Like I said, baseball bat. That's got to go, bruh. People would just grab that. They're like, yep, 4 of these, and I got a finisher again or a signature. Like, spam, wait, stall, hit him again. And then the same thing, stomp, clothesline, stomp, run move, stomp, run move. We used to have rules like, all right, bro, you got to chill with that, man. Like, I get you want to win the match, but you can't keep doing that. So
I'm going to pick your brain for all these things when, in the future, when I get in a situation where, we're actually doing this for our next product or whatever.
Yeah,
I'll
man.
definitely
Anytime you want, man, you can pick my brain on that stuff. There's a lot of different things, though, that could have been done differently. Hindsight, though, like you said, with a lot of this, too. Because I was for the reversal system at first. Like, limiting it, I was like, absolutely. It just didn't work out. 6, I'm going to say this is 6 ZZ, so 6 ribs. Says, was there any time during development of any of the games did you discuss official mod support similar to games like Fallout and such?
No, not to know.
I think they just let that come out and
not as long as what's that?
No, I said I think that it was kind of they put the game out. We were lucky to get it on PC. We waited a little bit for it, and I think it was kind of just do your own thing. Like, we're not going to say nothing, just do you.
Yeah.
People are always going to do that with the wrestling games, I feel like. AR said, did you ever feel that, like, there wasn't much change in the past 2K games? You know what? That could be saved for next week, probably, because he's asking about 16 to 17.
Yeah, I've got a lot of feedback about some of that stuff. Because, again, that goes into my time
with Yuke.
Working with Yuke's now. Because, like, this 2K15 was this was the last game that I was a part of in the position that I had been in up until now. So, you know, throughout the series, I've been talking about, oh, you know, I was responsible for designing this. You know, I added this, da da da. Like at THQ and with 2K, like, you know, we had that creative control. When I joined Yuke's, I ceded all of that control, and it was everything done at the behest of 2K. Not to say that we couldn't, you know, present our own ideas and everything, but ultimately they were the ones that had the final say. So it took a while to get, you know, used to that new working arrangement, but I was just so much happier. I really didn't care.
Let's see here. I see some people are talking crazy in here. I saw somebody write, no, EA is trash. You leave my friends at EA alone. They don't make all bad games. I'm just saying sometimes those wrestling ones, I was like, they made the Def Jam games, didn't they, after? Was that them?
They published them, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll give them their credit for that. Those were dope. Minus that one they came out with on PS3 with the finishers or whatever, Def Jam Icons, I think it was. That was garbage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the Icons. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it just wasn't as good as the ones that came before it.
It worked for the time, though. Like, when you wanted to beef with, like, Ludacris and T.I. or something, that was cool just to go in there like, let them fight in the ring. NWF Universe says, in 2K15, Hulk Hogan had a special run off the ropes animation. So did Kofi Kingston. Any reason more wrestlers didn't have unique animations like that?
Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know where they went. Cause I remember mocapping that. That was Jay Lethal who did that. He did Hogan.
Of course.
I honestly don't have an answer for why those motions were removed. If they were, I mean, again, it was probably done at the behest of.
I know why the Hogan one was gone.
Well, yeah, I mean, we know why Hogan was gone. Period. Until I think he's in 20, but this was the last. Yeah, this was the last game that he was in for a minute. It was 15.
Yeah, I know people were starting to beg for him to come back around like 17, 18, and some people. That turns into a big debate, like who's feeling it and who's not, as far as Hogan goes.
Fuck Hogan.
Original Biggie said, thank you, Conrad. They need more people who are passionate about this product because we have people who are more concerned about social stuff and not about the end product for the fans. So I respect that, Obi-Wan. Rob is coming in with a hot take about Crush Hour here. He says, hold up. Oh, come on. Somebody just sent a message. I just lost it. He said, hold up. Take out the WWE factor, and Crush Hour was a solid arena battler.
All right. Okay. I'll take your word for it. I remember playing it a couple times, and, you know, maybe you're right. Maybe it was just seeing the wrestlers in this this fantastical setting, which is clouding my judgment of the gameplay. So I'll take your word for it.
I'll play Twisted Metal. So let's see here. Travis Starr says in WWE 2K15, tired finishers work perfectly. I actually love this series. I don't know if you know 101 Gaming and Smack Talks. They did great finisher montages of this. But tired finishers work perfectly. But in future games, less were added with proper animations. And you saw it way less. Great stream, subbed, great stuff, Conrad. Thank you, Travis. I appreciate it. Another person who subbed.
Yeah, those are really good motions, and it's funny because like I remember when we added them, we did them again. I mentioned earlier, like we were just going into the mocap studio, just mocapping shit without any sort of firm plan or direction, and which is the reason why we only added a couple of them. I know that Sheamus had his bro kick. Adam Pearce mocapped that. And HBK had a tired corner sweep chin music, which I requested that we add since I was in charge of Showcase. I wanted to kind of improve HBK's moveset a little bit with some new animations. But yeah, and again, like, you know, the last mocap that I did the first mocap for 2K16, but by that was it. So I don't know if they didn't add any more. That was done at, you know, 2K's behest, I suppose.
Okay. All right. Update on the jeans. It's for something for work. Okay. I was wondering, that was a weird question. He asked me about like my pants. I'm like, bro, I wear dress pants every day to work. Chill out on me. I ain't coming to work in ripped jeans and stuff. So, all right. So it's for something tomorrow. So we'll see. I don't even know if I have a pair of jeans anymore. Do people wear jeans anymore? Like I'm always in like athletic gear now. Maybe it's the fat man thing.
Well, it's a quarantine thing.
Yeah, I love those tire finishers, especially HBK. It works so well with him. I remember that match on Raw with Triple H and Shawn Michaels. I don't know if it was either the end of the year or the first New Year match with Eric Bischoff, where Shawn like pins him and he lands on him perfectly with that. Like, dude, I love that match.
The collapsing pin.
Yeah, Shawn's the best, dude. Can we make super kicks mean something again? Like, wrestling fans, can we request that? I'm tired of people just using those shits willy-nilly. All right?
I'm not. I love a super kick. Super kick to your fucking heart's content. I don't care.
Nah, man, you can't. Listen, when I was seeing people kick out of destroyers, I'm starting to get pissed. I'm like, yo, P.D. Williams is somewhere like, yo, can I get something in life, bro? Like, come on.
I have more of a problem with people kicking out of destroyers than I do super kicks. And the only time I get upset about a super kick is if they do it and they miss the thigh and I don't get that cracking sound. Then it's like a big fail. I'm like, don't throw the kick unless you can make contact that thigh, homie. Otherwise, it's just...
Even if it's like the one on one knee and they just do it over and over again, I'm like, oh, come on, bro. Like, Shawn Michaels would have ended the match with this. What are you doing? Let's see here. Six said we used to argue about that stuff all the time. The 3-stomp rule and unbreakable weapons. Come on, man. Yeah, that was our solution for the weapons. We said they should either break or disappear after you used them so many times. I remember that. Didn't WWE want Sheamus on the cover of 2K or I'm sorry, WWE 13? He was hot shit at the time.
I don't remember if it was Sheamus. It might have been. All I remember from that whole story, because I remember Corey kind of always coming down and kind of complaining about it to us, like WWE's hesitance to have Punk on the cover. I know that they offered other guys, but it was people. I don't know. It might have been Sheamus. I just know that at first it definitely wasn't Punk.
Let's see here. Six said they definitely should have given Becky Lynch the solo cover for 2K20. That was her year. Roman didn't have to be on the cover. And Sick asked best finisher in wrestling. I'm saying the super kick, bro.
Oh, jeez. Best finisher in wrestling. Man. For me, just in terms of, and I'll say this maneuver and I'll incorporate any of its variations, but a pile driver. Whether it's a classic stalling pile driver, Gotch style, tombstone.
That
like you see that. Yeah, like you see that move done. And for me, just visually, that to me just looks like, yeah, that's it. My belief has been suspended. Like, this guy is not kicking out of that.
CM Punk John Cena. Speaking of the showcase, where that Monday Night Raw, dude, I remember watching that match and I was like, "Yo, I'm invested right now. Is Punk really about to take his Mania spot? That'd be dope." They did a good job with that too, and I think Cena busted out like a Batista bomb or something in there that he wasn't supposed to do, like a power bomb on Punk's neck, and they didn't.
I think it's like a sit out.
Yeah, they were like, "Yeah, we don't, what's Vince gonna say to us if we do moves that we want to do?"
He's like, "I'm just not Cena.
Yeah,
it'll be all right."
Punk, get over here.
Yeah, I know Punk got all the heat.
Where was I here in the questions here? I took my eye off the ball here. Thomas Polster said the Saskatchewan spinning nerve holder or the armbar is his favorite finisher. Resurrected Sean said he's reminding us about the authentic ring sounds when the moves were performed in 2K14. They didn't carry over.
So with the move to 2K.
Time out. Before you answer, Brian, he said 2K15's ring sounded like you slammed someone on an ironing board.
Yeah, they did. So all new sound effects were made for 15. Sound effects and just the entire audio design. Because, there were audio designers already at 2K. So the audio designers from THQ, who I mentioned before, who were good friends of mine, Bryan and Sean, they were added to the audio staff at 2K. And on this first year's game, I remember them having a hard time trying to get things going on the audio front, whether that's commentary, sound effects, because they were working with new people. And there was this one guy in particular whose emphasis was sound effects. And, he was a nice guy. To me, and He had a beautiful dog too. That's like the best. That's like the one thing I remember about this guy is that his dog was just fucking amazing. But he just wasn't very good at his job. And I know exactly the effects you're talking about, the Mad Slams, because it sounded very tinny. And he recorded all that at the motion capture studio, actually. And I don't know how the sounds from getting slammed in that mocap studio, because the acoustics there are really good, how it ended up sounding like it did on the back end. But I know exactly. I'm with you, man. The guys from THQ that joined that team, I know they did the best that they could. But yeah, that's why.
Let's see here. Mark Goldman says, I remember in 2K15 on PC, I made the ref slot playable, but he was literally unpinnable. 6 said, why do we have to burn up 2 reversal bars after executing major reversals? Nothing was more frustrating than major reversing someone only to have them run away from you. I burned up 2 reversal bars just to get my ass whipped. They would run away.
Another good point, and it goes to what Conrad had mentioned about the execution of the design, because I never liked that either. And I know that I voiced my opinion about that, but again, I no longer was in the same position, so I could only suggest.
Mr. Flood asked about people getting paid in the game. Flood, I can't answer how much money people get paid. I usually don't even like to discuss people's money all like that, honestly.
With them with the wrestlers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never knew any kind of figure amount. I just knew that they used to get paid more than what they do now.
Isn't that why Foley wasn't in this game? Foley refused to sign it because of the money. Like, I know THQ's incentives were much nicer. I'll give you a figure.
Yes, no, you're right. Yeah, he was on record saying that. Like, he felt kind of insulted by the fact that the money, because I remember he either tweeted it or he said something publicly about the pay, how it had gone down or something like that.
I believe Ryback just mentioned it on his podcast like a week or two ago that he would get. So back in the day, it was about $60K. I think he said they would get for being in the video game, and then it went down like a lot.
Yeah, that was the show he did with David Starr.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about that. Yeah, I listened to that.
Okay, look at me.
Oh man, I really enjoy Ryback's show, and I'm a big fan of David Starr.
Yeah,
that
me
dude,
too.
He's doing some good stuff.
I think that was the show where they talked about unions in pro wrestling as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So if you guys want to go in the archives, check out Ryback's podcast. There's enough room for all of us in the wrestling podcast world. You don't just have to listen to everything pro wrestling. It's fine. I get it.
Yeah,
just make sure you come back.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, don't listen to it if you think you won't come back to this. But if you think you can handle more than one podcast, by all means, go give that one a listen.
Oh dear goodness, the amount of questions that are pouring in. Sick just says, CJ, I know you got them dad jeans now. Knock it off. Knock it off. I'm not a role model. I'm a jeans model. Wrangler. Original Biggie is talking about some different things here with I think it sounds like ruthless aggression stuff here. He said it was the end of the year 2003 when super kicks meant something. I remember when super kicks used to mean something too. People are talking about Stone Cold Stunner is the best finisher. Some people are saying the Diamond Cutter. Mark Goldman comes in and says Monty Brown's the Pounce.
Yeah, that's okay. That would be my number 2.
Yeah, I love that move. 6 is back with what's crazy is the marketing for WWE 13 with Punk and Stone Cold, a classic. I can't even imagine it being as cool with anyone that they preferred. Good job getting that done. Yeah, I thought that was well done. I think, was Aubrey on set for that with JR?
He might have been. I know Aubrey was around.
I think I remember seeing him sitting in those chairs. Maybe he did something from there. He's like, we got something really cool planned for this. I remember that. And then I wanted that match to happen so bad. Just even when Punk, if you remember the night when he did the pipe bomb, Punk wearing the Stone Cold shirt. And
Stone Cold shirt, yeah.
No, but I loved the promo before. I remember I fell asleep right before the pipe bomb happened. Rob was in my house and he was like, dude, you got to wake up and go back and rewatch Raw on YouTube, bro. He's like, you missed some good shit. So I'm sitting there and I just remember the whole, are you drinking on the job? He was like, are you coming in here to ask me questions, son? And then he was like, "Can you say the alphabet backwards? I could whip your ass backwards." Like that was the stuff. That was good interaction between those two. I was like, these two would have money promos against each other.
Yeah, I believe that sit-down interview between Punk and Austin. I think wasn't it? It was Jim Ross who was in the middle.
JR hosted it.
Yeah.
He made me want to see that match so bad, and I was just like, we're never gonna get this shit. I know Austin. Austin's too wishy-washy about coming back.
Yeah, he's like the one guy who said, "No, when he's done, he was done." You know.
I respect it. Back.
Yeah.
I respect it. I hope The Rock comes back for one more match. I know everyone was talking that Roman Reigns shit. Rock versus Triple H. I want an Attitude Era style match one last time, and those two could go out and ride off on the horses. After just one time, Stephanie tries to get in, rock bottom, through the table, just one time for them, because they had the greatest rivalry, man. From Rocky Maivia to Hunter Hearst Helmsley to Nation DX, it's good stuff, man.
Meh.
You didn't like their matches?
No, their matches were fine. I just like in 2020 or 2021, maybe 2022. I don't know. For me, that's not a match I really at this point care to see.
Dude, listen, I can't see another Triple H young guy match where I'm just like, Jesus, bro. Like after the Rollins one, I think I've been done since then because I was at that Mania and I'm like, dude, I'm done with this.
Yeah,
Trips, you don't need a Mania match.
I'd be totally fine if I just never see another Triple H match. And I say that just I like Triple H, I liked his matches, but it's like, come on, man. It's all good, dog.
It's time to be Papa H, man.
Yeah.
Run that NXT. Show me what you got, bro. We got somebody, MKAH Network, says that he is a wrestler in the chat. Send me your stuff, brother. I'll help promote you, man. Send me some of your stuff. We'll help out with that.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Okay. All right. Somebody wrote Cryback in the chat. Don't disrespect Ryback now. Let's take it easy on my boy.
So I'll be nice.
Everybody's talking about the Pounce now.
The Pounce, good. Monty Brown. Don't forget. Never forget Monty Brown.
Where's Cam to sing that theme? It's going down, down.
Down. Love Monty Brown, man.
Let's see. Mark Goldman says, I remember we got a lot of move cuts from this game. Not a problem, but why were some of the animations like Justin Gabriel's 450 splash from 2K14 swapped out for subpar animations in 2K15?
I can't speak of any. I mean, if we replaced it with another, with other motion data, and it wasn't as good as what was before, that's one thing. I don't particularly remember that move, but I'm sure that happened. I mean, there were a lot of moves again, as I kind of talked about before. Just trying to get rid of some of the older animation data and like updating it with new motion data. I don't remember the 450 being a bad looking motion though from 15.
I don't recall that either.
But you guys are the customers. You guys are the fans. Your feedback is what counts, not mine.
Mark Goldman also said, shout out to the reverse suplex reversal, which is an animation from SmackDown Just Bring It in 2001.
I've been trying to get that out of the game for freaking years. I know exactly the motion. Its animation tag is 982. I have been trying to get that animation out for fucking ever, man.
It's bad when the brother just listed the number. Like, 982. It's got to go.
It's so old looking. I'm like, we have to get rid of this. Please. Can we just renew it with some mocap data? Every time I saw that motion, it pissed me off.
I love Young Flood in the chat. He said Marcus Corvan had that theme, I think. Marcus Corvan is Monty Brown, Mr. Floodwater. Got to get into your old TNA, bro. That's where the pounce was real, bro. Yeah. And shout out to the dude who got pounced out of the ring here in Buffalo for a local indie. I believe it's Anthony Gaines. Just got demolished. You ever seen that video where I can't think of the big dude's name now from TNA? AC Romero. Where he pounces the dude out of the ring.
I know AC Romero.
Yeah.
No, I mean...
that happened here. That was a Buffalo show, because I know the guy who got pounced out the ring. He's a wrestler.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. I was like, damn, bro, you got crushed. He was like, yeah, I wasn't supposed to go that far. So
I mean, hey, Romero's that's a big cat. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
unsurprising
bro.
you count somebody that far.
One of the last Impact shows when he went through those tables, I was like, God, boy, I wouldn't have took that spot. That's a hard bump.
That's a big boy.
Let's see here. Six said, has there been a question thus far since you guys have been doing this that made you say to yourself, I don't know about all that now. What? He's just saying, has there been a question that you've got so far that you're like, I don't know about that?
No, I don't think so. I always feel bad though when I get a question that I don't have a satisfactory answer. But no, there hasn't been anything asked too crazy. There is one question that I know my boy Roman Blair on Twitter, like he wants to get a question.
Hold on, Brian, you're chopping up a little.
The roster, not particularly for 15, but just roster. How am I now?
Hold on, you're chopping up.
Hello?
Yeah, try it now.
Test 1 2 1 2.
Yeah, you're good now.
I'm good. Okay. Roman just wanted to know like why certain guys don't make it into the game, and he listed some wrestlers, but I just wanted to bring up the big omissions were Nikki Cross and Tommaso Ciampa, right? Weren't they the ones
correct
that weren't in
for
the game?
19?
Yeah. They definitely were because I did their move sets. But they didn't, and I think maybe Mike Johnson from PW Insight might have reported this too. But we had to remove them towards the end of the game because it was like some paperwork, the clerical thing, where they didn't sign their contracts to appear in the game. So it got to a point where if the talents, if the contracts aren't signed, and I don't know if they chose not to sign them or they just forgot to, but whatever happened, we were just at a point where we didn't have their signatures and we had to move forward without them. But that's why. But they were definitely in it for a majority for the entire life cycle of that development up until the very end.
I guess the best way to put it would be this. I think that Tommaso knew his value at the time. NXT guys were getting paid less is the rumor that I heard. And this is just through the grapevine, so don't take it as Tommaso Ciampa said this. I heard that some of the NXT guys were getting paid less, but Tommaso knew they were putting on the best matches, and people were talking about his matches. So he was like, no, I want to get paid like them. And as you guys have heard the other rumors of Tommaso, what if you get called up to the main roster? I'll retire, he said. Like, he said he'll walk away and be like, nope, my neck hurts. I'm done. So
yeah, he's been very vocal and honest about his stance on that.
Yeah,
so.
And I'm not mad at it. And I think NXT, if you're going to keep it as a brand, you need core guys down there. So he's perfect for the role. There was something in here that I just saw. Why did you guys not scan referees to be in the game? Brian, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I do believe that they didn't want the referees getting paid, I don't think, for it.
Yeah, that was something that had been that was like an edict from like a long time ago. Because we used to have the actual referees modeled after the real life referees, like Kyoto and all that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was the WWE thing. They wanted us to use generic referees instead of anybody that was recognizable or someone that's on television. So that was a WWE call.
Mark Goldman said the funny thing is about Ciampa and Nikki Cross's 2K19 models are in the 2K20 files. We got those models back in 2K19 with the ring announcements and everything.
Nice.
So he's been breaking down the game a little bit. Six asked once again, were there any wrestlers, modern or classic, that Bryan or anyone tried to get into the game? Always wondered if there were some almost additions. Bryan did bring up Brock Lesnar in SVR 06. Was almost in the game previously. Do you remember anyone else?
Man, I'm probably the worst when it comes to the roster because it's one of those things that's, so many people are involved with it, and I can't think of anything on top of my head. Outside of like I said, you mentioned Brock being in 2006 and then having to pull him. I can't. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Nothing really pops to mind. I get more excited about the guys that just made it into the game. Mm-hmm. Just because I'm big fans of them, like Ricochet, Roddy Strong, Adam Cole, pretty much anybody that I saw at PWG. Yeah, I always got excited.
No, Danielson, we always had the same taste for kind of like wrestlers who got in the game. You were like, yes, we finally got him. That's what I'm talking about. We needed that person in. It had been a while. Bryan, I'm going to rapid fire through some of these questions. Travis, I'm going to probably save your question for last because I really like that question. So let's go to Obi-Wan's last couple ones here. Okay. What happened to the freedom we used to have in WWE games? Putting ladders and tables anywhere, doing finishers off of the ladders through announcers' tables. Was it a coding issue, a mixture of new code, old code? They didn't work well, or you guys didn't have enough time? Restriction limitations took away from the excitement and creativity he felt for himself and other gamers.
Yeah, I feel you on that, OB. It was it definitely wasn't anything to do with the code because we did it we had it with an older gen code with SVR 11. It was a design choice. It came down to aesthetics versus playability. It's easier to control and to thereby mitigate bugs and glitches if you take away that, level of freedom and control in favor of having things be more rigid. And I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. Or actually, I am saying it's a bad thing. It's kind of shitty. Because I think at the end of the day, we all want a good-looking game, but not if it comes at the expense of our gameplay. Because gameplay is king. But that is why. As much as, like I said, doing this series and going back and playing, I keep saying SVR 11, and just how the weapons and the objects and the physics in that game were pretty fucking cool, man. And I'm still mad at myself for not fighting, more to keep that a major focal point of the gameplay experience. But that's ultimately what it comes down to, is that when you get down to it, it's like, for a lot of people, it's like the look of the game began to take precedence over the playability of the game. Because it is hard to go back, having played these older games, and then you play a table match or a TLC match and 17, 18, 19, and it's just like, man, where'd all the improvisation and the just the free-form gameplay? It really is missed. And I've mentioned it before. Like, I'm definitely keeping this to heart and to mind in whatever project that we do moving forward.
Yeah, I'm going to put this up as a playlist, too. I know several people requested to put these separate from how I usually put all my other ones. I usually just keep one big one. I'm going to put these separate. I've been planning on doing it. I know the more videos you do, the worse it gets. So I'm going to start trying to separate some separate playlists for you guys as far as that goes. Biggie, I'm going to save your next two questions for next week because those are pretty good, and I want to save those. Mark Goldman just dropped another thing I never knew about the game. In SVR 11, Carlito's model was on disc, but just not assigned to the menus. Did not know that. It's like I told you before, like when we remove moves, like we never really delete them. We have a program where you can basically just set a flag and it can just hide it from the menu screen. So I'm pretty sure that's probably what happened with Carlito, and I'm sure others. Floodwater wants to know, why was Eugene only in one game? And why do some currently on TV guys get pulled from the next game?
Again, the Eugene, he was in 2006. He wasn't in 7. I'm taking it. So, yeah, I guess, you have to make choices when it comes to the roster. And sometimes you depending on any kind of factors, whether it's what WWE wants, because ultimately they have final say on the roster. If they wanted him in there bad enough, they would have insisted that he be in there. 2, it's you look at the other guys that are in the roster and you have to make a choice. Like, do we get rid of this guy for this guy? So it could have been that situation. Maybe his run was done. I'm sure when he went back to OVW, or when his character was written off TV, but that could have been it as well. There's all kind of factors that go into the roster.
I felt like Eugene, looking back at it, was a short-term character.
Yeah.
As much as they probably wanted to keep that couldn't have lasted too long, especially with backlash from families, parents, whatever else goes on in the wrestling world.
Yeah, and also when it comes to characters like a Eugene, and I say it with all respect to these guys, I'm not talking about their skill. But guys that are lower on the card, and I could be wrong, but for me, I always looked at those guys in terms of who was in and who was out. I gave a lot more attention to them because they needed it more. I mean, no one worries about the top, the main eventers being in the game. Like, they're going to be in the game. And I always would push for the guys that are, low card, mid, either based on, how I think their playability would be, like a guy who's got a really flashy, fun moveset, or if I hear that, people, the fans like a certain guy, I would try to push for that person. An example, like I remember when 19 was in development, I was active.
We're getting audio issues from you, Bryan.
Pushing for the addition. Conrad,
Yeah,
Brother Kush.
Yeah, your mic's chopping up. That's it.
Oh, Brother Kush. Yeah, but I'll keep it short. I was pushing for Buddy Murphy for 19 because, he had recently came back to TV with 205 Live, and I mean, just based on the matches he was having, and he had a dope moveset, I was really, really pushing to have him. But, again, being on Yuke's side, I can only suggest. But yeah, that happens.
Six said, can you imagine someone doing a Eugene character in 2020? Yikes, man. Yikes. Six said the one thing that he really misses and hope returns in future Yuke's games are the huge list of extra entrances. I know we lost a lot of them here in 19. I'm not going to run through the Creative Championship preset. I wrote down a big list of things that we lost. We all know what we lost from this if we're in here talking about it. And I get that. And Bryan, I know this was a special game for you personally, for personal reasons in your life too, with everything. Travis Starr asked this question, and I kind of wanted to really focus on this towards the end here. Where would THQ be at this point, 7 entire years later? What do you think the game would be like? And I know you answered something similar, but I would just love to hear an answer on that.
Where would I think the franchise would be had THQ stuck around? It's hard to say. Really is. That's a long stretch of time we're talking about. The one thing I can say for certainty is that had THQ stuck around, that there would be a WWE. I can say that with certainty. But beyond that, I think we would have.
It cut out when you hold on, Bryan. It cut out when you said that. You said what was certainty? That you guys would have been given a WWE 21. And I think we probably would have, taken the, everything that we did. And again, I'm saying this in hindsight being 2020, but hearing and seeing how 14 is such a kind of a benchmark in the series, I'd like to think that we would have just built and grown off of that with our introduction into, next gen, that being PS4 and Xbox One. And I don't know. I think with the team that we had in place, I think the franchise would be very, very healthy right now. I really do believe that. Because it's amazing, like I said, 2K, it was never a thing about money, or they didn't, care about the project monetarily or budget-wise. But I think there is something to be said for having the right people in place, and it's amazing the things that you can get done when you are forced into kind of restrictions, as it were. Like, I think because we didn't have the budget that we would eventually have with the 2K games. I don't know. I like to think that, this thing be chugging along, and I think it'd be in a good, positive place. That's what I would. Yeah, that's my answer for that. I respect it, Bryan, and I think this is probably a good point for us just to end it here. I know everybody's asking about GM mode in again. How about this, guys? Why don't you guys come back next Tuesday, 8 p.m., like we've been doing. That'll be part 6. We're going to talk to Bryan about 16.
Part 6?
Yes.
We've done 5. Wow. All right. Shit, part 6.
Lots of audio. And we could talk about everything that's been involved up until then. We're going to just go over Bryan's time at Yuke's. I think it's very interesting to see how things changed once he moved over to that team, how the transition happened. There's a lot of good things that happen with this, and I'm very interested to see that, for you guys to hear Bryan's story on how everything happened and what he started to work on once he got over at Yuke's. Because it's a different feel, I think, from what we've talked about previously. So I think that's something that would be good. So bring your questions for next week, and then I think for 7, I think Bryan, are you interested in Q&A? Maybe we'll have video game Q&A, and you get maybe even wrestling Q&A. You down?
Yeah, free reign. I think that last one, Q&A about any of the games we've talked about, things that just anything. Open questions. Open questions for part 7, because I don't want to end on a 6, because 666, all that weird stuff. Yeah. I feel you. We got enough bad mojo going on in the world.
You got that right, so we don't need any more. But thank you guys so much for joining us. I know that this was a long podcast, but you're getting healthy, fruitful discussion from me and Bryan. Bryan is killing it with this one, so I thank you, brother, for being in here again. Appreciate everybody who left a like on the video afterwards. Thank you guys so much, and we'll be back next week. Check us out tomorrow night as we do a review for AEW Dynamite. We have 2 TNT Championship Tournament matches, Cody versus Darby Allin, and we also have his brother, the Natural, Dustin Rhodes versus Lance Archer. You know what happens when Lance Archer's in the ring. This is going to be a great story.
I'm calling it now. Darby's going over.
I think so, too. I predicted Darby wins. And the other thing that I want to call right now is watch Bloodsport and tell me what happens in that movie and tell me if it's not the same thing for tomorrow.
I know what you're talking about. Okay.
Nice. Bolo.
Nice. Yeah.
Have a good night, everybody. Peace.
Everyday pro wrestling, they can never be you. Listen to the podcast for the people, the best show that's here, so listen in. Let the knowledge begin, the opinions, the lesson, yes. By the fans, for the fans, not many in this can understand, this the podcast to show you who I am, Conrad Cushman, the legend in the plans, please listen every day to the showcase, the opinions and knowledge that anyone can take, showing you how it is done, proving I am number one, what a legend becomes. This is now my time to show you that I am here. This podcast just to make it loud and clear. By the fans, for the fans, not many who's here can understand everything pro wrestling, they can never be you. Listen to the podcast here for the people, the best show that's here, so listen in. Let the knowledge begin, the opinion and the lesson, yes. Everyday pro wrestling, they can never be you. Listen to the podcast for the people, the best show that's here, so listen in. Let the knowledge begin, the opinions, the lesson, yes.